Coming up on Intelligent Machines this week, we talk about Elon's Doge drama, how YouTube is the new TV, and a Microsoft study that finds AI may be making human cognition atrophied and unprepared. It's all coming up next on Intelligent Machines.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Intelligent Machines, episode 806, recorded February 12th, 2025. I'm Piffed. It's time for Intelligent Machines! Leo is out this week, but that's okay because I, Paris Martineau, am here to guide you through all the news that's fit to podcast about. And I won't be doing it alone. We've got Mikah Sargent here. Hi, Mikah.
Hello, Paris. So good to see you. I don't know if I've said it before, but I just love your glasses. They're so good.
Thank you. Good. I, this week, had one of my lenses fall out of my glasses because I was furrowing my brow at the news on my phone too hard.
So hard that they...
I mean, maybe it was unrelated, but it did happen as I was looking at a particularly concerning tweet, and I had to go to the optometrist yesterday and get it put back in. We've also got Chuckler over here, Jeff Jarvis. Some may call him a visiting professor from Stony Brook or a distinguished fellow at Montclair State University, but I call him a professor emeritus at the Craig Newmark School of Journalism. Hi, Jeff.
Hello, boss. So good to see you. So good to see the chromosome shift is back in better alignment today. The age is down today. I'm the only old one here. This is good.
I heard there was a lot of talk about AI last week. Crazy. I thought we were supposed to be talking about human beings here.
It was sandy. It was sandy at times, but yeah.
It was. Well, yeah. I don't know. Glad to have you guys both here. Glad to be back with you guys. I missed you guys last week. There's been a lot of tech news that has happened this week, and it feels irresponsible to start this podcast off any other way than talking about what's been going on with Elon Musk and Doge and all of the various tech czars that now have their hands in the government. I think that the New York Times had a really good write-up of this, specifically looking into how Elon Musk's business empire has been scoring a bunch of benefits under this shakeup. Specifically, I mean, the Times, Eric Lipton and Kirsten Grind dug into the number of agencies that Musk is targeting and found that staffing changes, including the firing of several top officials, have affected agencies with federal investigations into or regulatory battles with Elon Musk's companies. And they go through a whole list here, Transportation Department has issued violations and fines, as well as lawsuits, complaints towards SpaceX. Tesla is under investigations, has lawsuits coming from and complaints from a variety of different groups in the government, and all of these are now under attack by Elon Musk's Doge. Have you guys been following this?
Yeah. And I would love the advice of the panel, because I'm finding myself needing to, I don't know. I almost wish that I had some way to press a couple of buttons. I close my left eye and double press my right nostril and it resets my brain or something. Because what's happening for me is I see these things and then I go, I have no reason to be surprised that this is happening. But what comes with that, I have no reason to be surprised that this is happening, is a certain level of, I don't want to call it full-on apathy, so we'll just call it athy. No, it's on its way to being apathetic, because it's of course this is what's happening. This is what I expected would happen, and I'm not surprised by literally any aspect of this. I thought, okay, yeah, that's exactly what you would do if you had this power. How do I keep that energy alive that says, yes, this is happening. No, we're not surprised, but still we should be pushing for things to be done about it, right?
Paris?
I was going to go to you, Jeff, because
I know, same, because
my
you're
response to all of this has been a deep and uncontainable dread. What I thought you were going to ask is how to contain the dread when like I said before, I was scrolling through Twitter and Blue Sky and a variety of RSS feeds and furrowed my brow so hard that I possibly broke my glasses. It was related to this, perhaps. It just seems, I think one of the things that was notable to me in all of this was the American Bar Association released a statement. The American Bar Association famously, not only an apolitical, but a famously non-political organization. They released a statement saying, hey, the flurry of executive orders and kind of extrajudicial happenings that we're seeing from organizations like DOJ, as well as from the executive branch itself, and the way that these sort of two groups are pushing back against judicial resistance and checks from the judicial branch is unprecedented. And there have been a number of legal scholars on both sides of the political aisle saying we're in a constitutional crisis. And it stresses me out. So I don't know. My answer to you is I'm not sure how to be less. I get it, though, because I feel in some ways a bit overwhelmed by all of it and have had to kind of set times for myself to check in with the news and not. Jeff, with all of your wise experience. I'll
tell you what gives me hope. There isn't much of it.
I could use some of that, yes.
There isn't much of it, but the middle school students on a German army base and spouses of military people on a military base, let me emphasize that again, who stood out and protested against Pete Hegseth's arrival. Middle schoolers have more guts and more courage and more fortitude and morals than members of Congress and our media. So how can we be more like middle schoolers? We need more examples of this. We need more examples. And I got into this discussion the other day. I'm curious what you think about this. I got a discussion the other day with a guy I know, not terribly well. I quoted George Conway saying that if the president and company ignore and do not follow court orders, then we are beyond a constitutional crisis. And George Conway's a conservative. And he said we are at the point of the end of rule of law. And he said the only thing we can do is take to the streets. And I just quoted that. Joe Scarborough had just read a New York Times editorial saying that we're going to hang in there. And it was John Meacham was doing blather. But George Conway came out right out and said it. So this guy I knew wanted to get on Zoom with me because he knows I'm outspoken and blathering about all of this and blunt. And he said a couple of things. One, he said he was nervous that if people took to the streets, they would get hurt. He was nervous that it would cause a reaction. The 1968 demonstrations in Chicago, he believes, gave us Nixon, and George Floyd demonstrations gave us Trump. I'm not willing to go there. But then we started talking about how do we take action? And he was arguing for a boycott of certain companies. If we got together and boycotted those companies, then would that have action? I don't know, because the other side will come out together and buy there, and I don't know what's going to happen. I think a lot of people feel very powerless right now, and I think we need leadership. And it's hard to do that. Yes, we want bottoms up, but we do need somebody to convene and to call us together. And somehow those middle schoolers and half of their parents came out to protest. Who brought them together? I don't know. And I was thinking back to when Kamala Harris got the nomination. There were all of those, started by black women, did the Zoom calls, and that led to another one and another one and another one. And I was part of the white dudes for Kamala. And I wonder what, in this world of social media, where a lot of our social media is taken over now by Musk and Zuckerberg has shown his true stripes, how do we organize bottom up? I think it's a legitimate topic for this show to wonder, and it's not an AI topic, but how do people who want to gather use the tools that we now have to gather? And I don't see it happening except in middle school.
And I do think answer to this question lies in kind of what you had stated, finding a way to overcome apathy, because I think that is what a lot of people are feeling. And it's a natural response when we are seeing a flood of information and very abrupt changes like this. It's
Paris, let me
very
ask, is it
normal.
Is it apathy or is it defeat? Has it gone over that boundary yet?
Yeah, I guess it's individual definition, right? I can tell you that I have felt very defeated as of late. Not complete defeat, and I think that if I lived where I lived growing up, which was in Missouri, I would probably be much farther along that road of feeling defeated. It helps to be in a place where I feel like I have some semblance of protection around me in that way. But maybe it is because I do very much care. But Jeff, I think you touched on the point there when you talked about looking for some actual real leadership, because so much of the advocacy surrounds this sort of individual approach, these little, I will boycott this and what can I do individually? I can call people, and that stuff just feels, we've been calling and we've been boycotting and we've been doing that for a long time, and it doesn't on an individual scale have much of an impact. And so, that would be great to see, is some true leadership in these moments of, okay, here's what we do, and we can all do it together, and we can actually point to things where this is making a difference, because it does feel very powerless.
Or at least you can hear the stories of people's lives who are affected. Doesn't know that. Paris, where are you on the scale from ennui to defeat?
I think I'm often in Apathy Town, USA, or, I feel a bit anxious and overwhelmed by a deluge of news, and also thinking about, as we are witnessing a seemingly unprecedented dismantling of established federal powers, offices, and things that have existed quietly in the background to prop up American status around the world and our continued size as a nation. That is stressing me out, because I don't know when we will even begin to know the extent. Because my first instinct as a journalist to be like, well, what is the problem here? What are the exact effects of this? And it's going to be so long before we can even figure many of those things out. And that stresses me out.
Can I ask you a journalism question? Oh, go ahead. Sorry. You go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that part of the response from a human perspective to something like this is seeking out community. That seems like a bit of a pat answer, but I think it is really powerful. Whatever your political persuasion, whatever causes you believe in, looking for local, state organizations, state or city organizations that deal with that cause or are aligned with that political group, and finding a way to, even if you're not, actively out there changing the world, just sitting in meetings with other people who share the same concerns as you can be incredibly powerful and a great first step to whatever you want. To steering yourself away from apathy.
So here's my journalism question for you both. I had somebody call me today to ask about those that are paying obeisance in various forms, whether that's Joe and Mikah going to Mar-a-Lago, or whether that is the ABC and CBS paying Trump through his suits against them.
And Meta. Keep it on the tech angle, yeah.
Right. And so the only news organizations that have not been kicked out of the Pentagon or the White House so far are ABC and CBS. So they have access. But what I said to this guy is, who needs access? We don't, at that level, we don't need access. In Trump 1, Jay Rose of New York University, and I said, and others said, send the interns to the White House press briefing room. Don't cover this from the perspective of Trump. Cover this from the perspective of the citizens. So is it heretical to say, screw access, we don't need access, in fact, we don't want it? Is this finally when we give it up?
I understand that impetus, and I think there's like a lot of good things there. That yes, access is not going to produce any of the most powerful or meaningful journalism, but I do think that part of the concerns from an a journalistic establishment perspective here are it sets a bad precedent if we simply just roll over as a news gathering organization when a hostile leader decides to cut off access to a long-standing like member of that news corp just based on their political persuasion or the sort of stories they write. In one example of this is recently the Associated Press, I believe, has been banned from now at least 2 White House press briefings
even
because
today.
The Associated Press doesn't use the words Gulf of America to refer to the Gulf of Mexico.
So I got into a discussion on Facebook with somebody in Google, inside Google, when I said, for shame Google for doing that. Google changed the map. It is now changed to Gulf of America.
Apple has as well.
And Apple has as well. And
as has MapQuest. I guess they're still updating MapQuest.
Oh, so my friend said, and it's a friend of mine who's inside Google, went after me a bit. Not nastily. I'm just saying, come on, we have to have a policy. And the policy is in any country, follow what the country says. This is what the country says. And I understand that. But if you can't stand up against the stupid little stuff, where do you decide to stand up? And Google also got rid of, off its calendar, it got rid of Black History Month and LGBTQ events and other things off its calendar. They said, well, we did this last year. Well, you did this coming up. And now's the time when you put them back. And so that's an extremely powerful company. And I understand what they're worried about. I understand they're worried about vindication against them. And they're protecting their stockholders. I get all of those arguments. But where does... So this reporter asked me today, what's the strategy? And I said, it's the Costco strategy. Costco stood up against all of this, held on to its DEI. And my wife found a page on Reddit where the people in Costco anecdotally are saying they're getting tons of new member requests. They're leaving Walmart and Sam's Club, and they're coming to Costco, where they get 8 a weekend. They're now getting 100 a weekend. All right, it's not huge, but it's a strategy that says there's a place in the marketplace for standing up, and Google's not, and Apple's not, and Amazon is not.
Is Costco a federal contractor? Do they have skin in that game?
Good question. I don't know.
Because the other companies have used that as
I imagine they're an approved vendor for buying.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Toilet paper and stuff. But that'd be on an
because up to that
level.
point, all of the companies said, well, because that was my first thought was, can everyone please, for the love of God, just go and take a quick little civics class? You know what? I'll host it. I'll give a civics class. It'll take you 45 minutes, and all we're going to do is talk about what free speech is and how it has to deal with what the government can do, and also outside of that, what an executive order can have an impact on and what it can't. Because when I saw the celebration of the companies who were not following Trump's executive order, and I'm going, but it doesn't, that an executive order from the government and a private company, that very frustrating moment of just a misunderstanding of how this works and what can be impacted directly and indirectly, et cetera, et cetera. But all of that aside, a lot of these tech companies talked about, well, the reason why we have to is because we are a federal contractor in some way, and so we have to follow this executive order. I actually, we talked about this morning on my show, Clockwise, specifically the maps thing. And I think that this is a very stupid thing that has happened, and that is where I disagree with the renaming of this, and I think it's just so stupid. I do think, and this is probably a little unpopular here, that if there's a ruling body in a country that is in charge of setting the standard for what different places within the country are called, then I want tech companies to follow that standard, because what happens whenever it's whenever it's the opposite way, right? That we're finally taking a state and we're calling it by its original native name. And then one company, Meta, decides they don't want to rename it in their product because they just decide they don't want to. I should say it decides it doesn't want to. I want in every case there to be that strict rule that says, well, because the USGS, or I can't remember what group is in charge of this, has named it this, then that is the thing that's followed. So I'm less bothered by the choice of the company to make a change based on what the
official
government body, the official naming is, even though I'm still bothered by the fact that we're calling it we aren't, but that it's being called the Gulf of America and all of the stuff that's stupid there. I want those companies to stick to a set of guidelines and follow them.
What about Black History Month in the calendar?
That is, again, that's something that happened before. And
it did.
Yes, and so the only reason I say that is because, again, I always want for the people who are truly fighting for the good to also be fighting in a way that is accurate. And I worry about, because this is, of course, part of the strategy is to lose the accuracy, lose the thread of what's true and what's not. So I kind of pushed that through. But I think that what Google should have done is made it very clear exactly what its policy is surrounding that. And I think that regardless of what the decision was, that yes, it is, this would be the time where you say, you know what, our policy is going to be that we're going to work with, whatever it is, primary, secondary, and tertiary holidays in the US. So as you said, Jeff, this would be the time to add more, not take more away or make a change to it. But again, just follow a set of rules and, stick to the policy so that it doesn't feel like you're capitulating if you are claiming 10 toes down that you're not capitulating whenever we see that happening in other parts of the business. But, okay, and then this is one other thing that I'll say, because I keep hearing this refrain, and I think different people have different takes on this. And we saw it the first presidency, the first Trump presidency, which was this, quote, "it's a distraction," unquote, mantra. And it was this idea that these silly, goofy, tiny things we focus on, and we're missing the big things. But I don't know. I think that there's still a level of death by 1,000 cuts, right? That's involved in this. And they may seem like they're small, unimportant things, but these have all been signals of a level of almost royal decree that's being given to this person that we have not really, that feels unprecedented, I guess, to me. And that's the part where I start to feel exhausted and powerless, right? Is whenever you just see, wow, no, you really can just say a thing and then it happens. And that is so frustrating.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think those are all really good points. And it is interesting to see the way that these executive orders and moves by DOJ are being implemented or reflected in the broader tech community. Yeah. And in some way, it's kind of like a mirror being held up to a mirror, because the amount of tech power in the government is only growing. And it's unprecedented in comparison to past administrations, at least in my recollection. My colleague, Julia Black, today actually, put together, we do org charts of the information, which are normally company org charts. I think this is the first time we've ever done a governmental org chart. And it's a tech governmental org chart. She identified more than 24 tech executives and other movers and shakers in the tech world that are now in the federal government underneath Trump and, in some cases, Elon. And it's, I don't know, fascinating to me. Trump's interests have, over the last couple of years, and certainly since he's taken office, crystallized as aligning with those of Silicon Valley, including like the funding of massive AI projects, deregulating the crypto market, overhauling defense procurement contracts, and kind of cutting red tape for people in biotech. It's interesting, I think also this week it came out that Trump is planning to nominate the former Andreessen Horowitz head of crypto policy to lead the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, which is just, one of the many ways in which the Trump administration is taking a really friendly approach to crypto. And I'm really, curious is maybe the wrong word, but I am interested to see how this shakes out, because we're already starting to see some of the, very the consequences of this. In particular, like this ongoing lawsuit that the SEC has had against Binance might be going away. The SEC recently requested a pause in its legal battle with Binance. This is reporting from the AP. And this is as kind of the Securities Exchange Commission is trying to present itself as more crypto friendly. And to be clear, this is the Binance case where the people at Binance were found in documents released in discovery saying, "We are operating as a effing unlicensed security exchange in the USA, bro," end quote. It was a pretty open and shut case as far as things like that go. But it's going to be very interesting if we're entering in a world where even very egregious actions that once would have been cause for investigation and potential large penalties become just A-okay.
Just who's to investigate? There's no. That's the problem. If this is what George Conway's point is, and others have said it too, is that if a court order is disobeyed, who enforces that?
Right.
The marshal's office. Who does the marshal's office report to? The DOJ. If someone wants to pass a law saying you can't do this, who does that? Congress. Now Congress can't do that. So, and even who went to the Supreme Court, who owns the Supreme Court. So we're there. We're there. This isn't coming. And this is, where I get upset with the failure of my field and yours too, Paris, is journalism. Our institutions are not serving us well, in my view. And I don't know what to do about that.
What do you think should be done?
We're going way. Paris, you're in charge today. So when we get in trouble for being so political today, it was Paris.
Don't be mad, guys. Everybody got mad last week because you talked too much about AI. I decided we were going to talk about something else that would make you mad. So you're not allowed to be mad. You're not allowed.
About AI, at least. Yeah.
It'll hit AI because that's part of this. I think we have to call what it is. What I constantly come back to is I've reread many times now The Origins of Totalitarianism by Hannah Arendt. There's lessons in here for our present day. And I think that journalism needs to recognize and label and explain what is going on rather than prevaricating and being credulous and naive, purposefully, willfully credulous and naive. Oh, well, things could happen. We don't know. We might be there. I just don't think that they're serving them well. So I'm looking for blunt honesty. The Guardian is more bluntly honest than the New York Times and the Washington Post, in my view.
Do you think, though, okay, so obviously we don't know, but I'm guess we're crystal balling here, because there's such a distrust for the media, and not for everyone, of course. Anecdotally, I see a distrust or mistrust, and particularly among the group that very barely outvoted the other group in this election. And I also see an overall just distrust of fact and scientific fact. And do we think that journalists, are you maybe saying that if we had collectively done this for 8, 12 years ago and been more honest at that point, more forthright, more true, more real at that point, we wouldn't have gotten to the point where we are now, where I don't know if somebody's choosing that level of brash honesty, that is it going to reach the people that it needs to reach? Because many of us are already going, yeah, well, I know that.
Yeah, I worry that approach would lead us to where we are now as well, where it's like people are overwhelmed and apathetic and defeatist.
I think they'd feel less alone if they said someone speaks for me.
Yeah.
And so Mikah, I don't want to, if you get me going, I can go on for 3 hours myself, so, because this is what I do. But my argument is that we are not in an information crisis. This isn't about disinformation. When people say crazy stuff to pollsters or reporters, they are signaling their belonging to something. And what Hannah Arendt says is that totalitarians first alienate people from their communities and society, and then they become vulnerable to the siren call of the authoritarian. And so when people are saying crazy stuff, I think again they're signaling their belonging. It's like a loyalty test. And so the challenge that I wonder is how do we concoct the idea of a journalism of belonging?
Okay.
When people say that they so what Arendt says also is that people in totalitarian regimes seem to grasp onto abstract notions rather than their daily concerns. And I don't think that the people on part of this country really every day, every minute, think the most important thing in their lives is guns and abortion and trans students in bathrooms. Mm-hmm. Their lives have the same concerns we all have about their health and their safety and their jobs and their happiness. But that's not where the discussion is held. The discussion is held at this representation through the signals. And media play along with that, and media do that. And so, well, the New York Times goes and visits diners and finds people saying stuff that seems crazy. Well, they believe it. It doesn't matter what they believe. It's not about belief. It's about belonging. And in the Gutenberg parenthesis, there's the first plug, right behind me here. I talk about the need for a pluralistic society where people have a sense of belonging to multiple competing pulls on their lives, so they don't feel that lonely, they don't feel that separated from everything, that they do feel that they're with other people, that they can go someplace and talk about this and find that they're not alone. And I don't blame the internet for this. I don't think that's about it. In fact, I think I'm far more connected than I would otherwise be without the internet. But I think that people feel isolated, and I've long said that I wish Facebook from the beginning had said that its mission was to make strangers less strange, that its mission was to connect people.
Facebook from the beginning should have said its mission is to help you figure out whether your college classmates are hot or not, because that was its mission from the beginning.
That was its mission. Indeed it was. And at least somebody got a date out of it, even though the social network thinks he didn't, but he did.
Well, these are great points, but I hear a whistle on the wind, a call coming over the airwaves, and that's Leo Laporte telling us it's time for an ad break, so we better listen to him.
This episode of Intelligent Machines is brought to you by Stash. Are you still putting off saving and investing because you'll get to it someday? Stash turns someday into today. Stash isn't just an investing app. It's a registered investment advisor that combines automated investing with dependable financial strategies to help you reach your goals faster. They'll provide you with personalized advice on what to invest in based on your goals, or if you want to just sit back and watch your money go to work, you can opt into their award-winning expert-managed portfolio that picks stocks for you. Stash has helped millions of Americans reach their financial goals and starts at just $3 per month. Don't let your savings sit around. Make it work harder for you. Go to get.stash.com/machines to see how you can receive $25 towards your first stock purchase and to view important disclosures. That's get.stash.com/machines. Paid non-client endorsement, not representative of all clients, and not a guarantee. Investment advisory services offered by Stash Investments, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk. Offer is subject to T&Cs.
Let's do a little palate cleanser.
I love that. What flavor? Lime.
Flavor,
I
this
think-
is
I
kind of a
think,
mystery flavor. It's
Okay.
All right.
interesting.
Honeydew, maybe?
There was it's
too
this
treacle
could be
now.
honeydew actually in terms of the depth
I
of
think
the
a citrus
flavor.
was the right way to go.
It's been earnings week. A lot of big, announcements from various companies. One caught my eye from YouTube CEO Neal Mohan. He released his annual letter on Tuesday and noted one detail that I found really interesting is that TV has overtaken mobile as the primary device for viewing YouTube.
Yes.
I thought that was fascinating. As someone who famously doesn't really watch YouTube videos, I'm curious, does this align with either
But as
of
someone
your
who
guys'
just bought
experiences?
a big new TV.
I know. I kind of wanted to segue into my TV discussion, but we'll get there. Micah, do you watch YouTube? And if so, how?
Oh my goodness, this is a pluralistic society. I feel a sense of belonging because I thought I was alone in not watching YouTube.
Right? It's so weird for people our generation
Harris.
to not watch YouTube.
Yeah, I don't
but
really either. But I'm
I
old.
don't. And the thing is, I've realized at this point, if I've not gotten into watching YouTube, I can't start because I don't have
Yeah.
that sort of time in my life.
No. You know what's worse than watching YouTube on my phone? Figuring out a way to make it show up on the TV. So it is
Yes.
wild to me that people are watching it on the TV so much. What are they watching? Are they watching streams? Are they just hitting play and like continue? You know what? Actually, I was visiting some friends who, mind you, are what is the generation? Whatever the one after Generation Z. They Zoomers. Thank you.
Gen Z.
We were at their house, and for me, if I had people over, the way that I would handle sort of ambiance is by playing Spotify, Apple Music on one of the many smart speakers that's in the house, right? The way that they do it is they pull up their little smart TV app to YouTube and they
play music videos?
You play music videos, and what's worse is you have to use the left, right, down, up to type into the keyboard like some kind
Like
of
a
animal.
savage.
And here's what's worse: it doesn't. This smart app, isn't even good enough to have like a queuing feature. So after the song ends, then somebody else has to go up and do this. And I thought, what? And I thought, surely this is going to be. And then I kid you not. And who knows, maybe this is just an Oregon thing, but maybe it's just a Portland thing. Very weird here. I've gone to two other places, and I swear they were doing the exact same thing. So I think it's all the Zoomers that are watching stuff on YouTube all the time. I almost wish that we could like bring in Kevin King, one of the producers and editors on the network, because I know he's a big YouTube watcher, and I'm always like, what are you watching? Are you watching tutorials? How can you
People
spend
are
enough
watching
time?
crazy things. I've realized this through dating in New York. Whenever like you're getting like second date conversations, like what sort of content you consume, there's a certain genre of man and woman that's like a YouTube person, and it fascinates me. I will spend like 30 minutes being like,
you're a
so what do
YouTube
you
person."
watch? And how, like, I mean, they pay for YouTube. It's basically like their version of podcasts or TikToks, but it's longer. I don't know. I'm very judicious about the podcasts I watch or listen to. I rarely ever watch podcasts. Though if you're watching ours, that's great.
God bless you.
Are
God
making the
bless
right
you.
choices.
Okay, so I think I'm the only one here that actually.
Okay.
I was wondering about
Benito, our producer,
Benito,
tell us your
what
YouTube
are you watching?
habits.
So I watch a lot of YouTube, but I there's music YouTube where there's a lot of like music analysis. That's one of the branches of YouTube I watch a lot. I watch a lot of film YouTube, which is like
What does that mean? Are you analyzing films or
Yeah, film analysis or reviews or like.
How long are these videos?
It depends.
I'm
Some of
sorry, I
them-
sound like
some
an alien.
Some of them 15 minutes, some of them an hour or two. It really
And
depends on
you
the
just
creator.
sit down
And it's
at your
not- no, no,
computer
and it's-
or
the thing is-
TV and
No,
watch
yeah.
it for an hour?
Well, I have a computer attached to my TV, so I do that.
Okay. That makes
You
it
use
easier
that as
than what
as
I'm
the
trying to
UI.
do to get it to play.
Yeah, I know. I'm just using the actual YouTube website and full screen on
Does-
my TV.
Does the video, because the two things that you mentioned, music analysis is very audio based, and then you said film analysis. If we're not talking about visual effects and it's just somebody talking about like how a film is made, does that, like, how often do you feel you are benefiting from the visual thing in front of you when you're watching it?
Oh, very
does
much so,
that factor
especially
into
for
it?
film, because like they're showing you cuts or they're showing you shots.
Okay.
That would make sense.
For music, not so much, unless it's an interview with someone I care about. But also, it's not really just like the branches of YouTube. It's like specific channels. It's like watching NBC. It's like being a fan of remember back in the 90s of Can't Miss TV, like Must See TV. It's like that. It's like,
does it have an auto?
There are a couple of shows that I watch on YouTube, and there's a new episode every week. So it's like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like
so
little
you were
shows
waiting
and stuff.
for it to come up.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, it's Wednesday. I'm going to be able to watch this thing I
like
watch.
this guy's
every week.
this guy puts out a video
Most
every
people
Wednesday,
I
so I'm going to watch that video on Wednesday. It's like that.
Got
Most
it.
people I know who watch YouTube consume it like that. They follow specific creators and then they consume or they're like, I'm really in a roller coaster explainer video rabbit hole, so I'm just going to watch a lot of videos about roller coasters this
A lot of that too. Yeah, there's a lot of that deep dive.
So am I the only one here who's been to VidCon?
I have
Yeah.
not.
Am I the
been to
only
VidCon,
hipster?
So yes, you're the hipster amongst us.
I'm the hipster among us. I'm the youth among you. When you go, I've written about it. VidCon was a changing experience. It was amazing, and it's more than YouTube now. But and I was last there before the pandemic. But it's pretty amazing to see the devotion that people have to those creators, and YouTube is their path to them. I think that's the big difference here, is that we may be interested in topics or news or genre, but a lot of them are about the relationships that they feel with those
Parasocial
people.
relationships. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The most amazing experience from VidCon was every year they have 1 or 2 mental health sessions, and they're amazing. You have young people in the room who will say to the stage has a licensed therapist and 3 or 4 YouTubers who have talked very publicly about their eating disorder or their mental health challenges or other things, and somebody will get up in the audience. A young person will get up in the audience and say, "You saved my life," and the person on stage will say, "No, you did." But the person, this goes back to our prior discussion, the person in the audience would say, I knew I wasn't alone. I knew I wasn't weird. I knew I wasn't by myself. And that was everything to them. And you can look at that, and I'm sure some people would look at that, the moral panickers among us, and would say, oh, well, they should be out on the playground with real people and not doing this, right? But that's the problem. They couldn't find people like them where they are. But they could on YouTube. So I think that's a lot of it, is that it's an entirely different relationship.
Yeah. I mean, I've been trying to psychoanalyze myself as to why I'm not a person who watches YouTube videos, because when I was a kid or like a teen, I watched YouTube.
You're a news
I watched,
wonk.
Sketch comedy. I think it's because I'm a news wonk, and also I don't have the patience to sit down and watch a video. Like, nothing upsets me more than when I've gotten really into going to Orange Theory fitness classes. I could talk about that forever. But lately, there's like a subreddit for it where they give you the preview of what's coming up the next day, including the workouts. And so I'll go there and be like, oh, what is this weird exercise thing? And I click the YouTube video they have linked, and nothing upsets me more than when it's like God knows, a 45-second intro to it. I'm just like, I don't have time for this.
It's like a recipe that you have to read online. Yeah.
But it's like you can't scroll through it because it's a video. And I hate that.
And here's the thing. I will, with every ounce of my ability to learn something, I will make things so much harder for myself by reading how to do it before I ever will watch how to do it, because I don't like it feels like I'm spending so much time.
Oh, because they're stretching it out to get more airtime, and it's ridiculous.
100%. And it is.
But there's people who do this well. I mean, John and Hank Green, founders of VidCon, to me are masters of this. They have a conversation as the Vlog Brothers, and they come on and they do. They can interrogate a topic or a feeling for 5, 6, 7 minutes, and I'm engaged by that. I do watch that. There are examples of good stuff, but that's the thing about YouTube. It's all this different stuff.
There are things that get past my sort of, I don't want to watch this. I will be honest that if I am watching something on YouTube, I'm probably doing it at 1.5 to 2x speed. I think that for me, the biggest thing is it is rare that anyone, and by anyone I mean any personality or any kind of content, gets my my so focused attention that I'm like sitting and watching and listening. I am an antsy person.
I totally
and so,
agree.
Yeah, that's why I love audiobooks, because I can do 50,000 other things while I'm listening to audiobooks.
And it makes me listen to it better.
Better.
Like, I am
Yes.
paying more attention to it because I am
Yes,
doing my
because
dishes
I'm crocheting
while
or I'm exactly.
Driving.
Driving, shower, whatever it happens to be, crocheting and showering at the same time, trying to get a
Very wet
Guinness book.
needles.
Very, very wet.
So you can't watch
crocheting.
movies with TV? You can't watch movies
I do.
then?
No, that's the thing, Benito, is that there are movies and TV that matter enough. They get past that. So I can do that. It's just, I guess I've never found much on YouTube that for me works in that way. And it kind of bums me out, because when I was in high school, one of the things that my little group of friends did, and it's why I got into the field that I'm in at all in the first place, was I did a web show with friends, and I edited the video that we shot.
Is this still available on the internet?
No, I very much have not made it available.
Come on, chat room. You could find it.
It was a show called Seriously Guys, SRSLY Guys. And basically we would rant about something, like seriously guys, and then we would offer solutions to the problem of whatever it was we were talking about. And so we did, like people with road rage and different grammar things that we were hooked on at the time. That's why it's not around anymore, because it's so cringy now. But and honestly, like, that's how I got into video editing. That's how and at the time I was actually a big John and Hank Green fan. Jeff, speaking of those two, and certainly wanted to go to VidCon at the time. But and I'll throw up for a second as I say this word, a creator myself, I think there's a level of knowing how the sausage gets made that ruins things for me, because another example of that is I used to, and I do it for fun now, but I used to have a little business where I decorated like Cake Boss cakes, like the ones that are shaped like different things, and you use fondant and you make cool whatever. And I made enough cakes and ate enough cake scraps while I'm carving out different shapes that I started to really dislike cake. And so it was like how the cake gets made. I'm not big on cake anymore. And the same thing I think applies to sort of the podcast video landscape, where not a lot of it interests me because I guess I just know too much of behind the scenes or something. I don't know. It feels too much like work, right? Maybe that's what it is. I feel like I'm consuming something that is related to work, and that kind of has ruined it in a way.
So a couple of other things. Sorry. The sports is the other thing. Like, I don't watch SportsCenter, but I will watch clips on YouTube from SportsCenter. You know what I mean?
Oh, interesting.
Like, I won't watch the whole show, but I want to watch what they talk when they talk about the Warriors. I want to watch that, right? So like those are the kind of YouTube clips that they put up. Like anything on ESPN or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, late night monologues.
That's
same
a big
thing.
one. Yeah.
And all of this consumption of YouTube is on your TV plugged into your laptop?
Plugged into my desktop, which is my gaming computer.
So I'm curious, if I may ask, if you each go to youtube.com right now, what are some of the things it's recommending to you?
Let's see.
I have Chromebooks. I have John and Hank Green.
What are we talking about? Are we talking about the
What's
top
it recommending
thing?
to you? Yeah, what's just when you go to the homepage of YouTube, what does it think you want to watch?
I see lo-fi hip-hop radio, beats to relax.
I also see that. Then I see Unlocking AI's Potential. Reid Hoffman discusses super agency, which I know why that's there, because I had to. The last thing I listened or watched on YouTube was Noam Shazir clips, the Character AI co-founder. Because I was
Paris is tube-splaining.
Yeah,
that's whenever you don't want to. You're like, no, you don't. I have this for a reason. I swear. I have two that I do stand by. One is Legend of Zelda Orchestra Concert. Probably wouldn't listen to that, but I respect that it's there. And the one that I do stand by is Big Bear Bald Eagle Live Nest Cam 1, which don't know, but I'm gonna have to check that out later. It's the Live Eagle cool.
Cam. That's great. What do you got,
Oh
Mikah?
no! Somebody found my YouTube username, but hopefully I have all of those videos locked. Oh no! There are videos available.
Guys, don't look it up.
Benito, we gotta see it.
Well, no. We have to respect his privacy. We can't
Although
allow this.
honestly, I will say, if they're not locked away, that's on me. It's not real privacy, is it? Anyway, so the other one, maybe I got rid of the most cringy ones. Anyway, I'm not surprised to see NPR Tiny Desk, because I will use YouTube for that. I love Tiny Desk concerts. And so NPR Tiny Desk Submission is listed on here. And then I'm also there are a couple of things that just look like ads, because one is for a Severance thing, which I haven't been watching Severance season 2 yet. So I don't know why I'm getting that on the top of mine. And then Intelligent Machines Live is also at the top of mine.
So
kind
here's
of
what
boring,
my
honestly.
heavily curated YouTube page looks like.
Yeah, tell us about yours.
So there's some NBA on TNT. There's the charismatic voice. She's a vocal coach. She's an opera singer who talks about singing. And then I don't know who some of these are. Some of these are science stuff. There's a film thing. There's some more basketball. So it's like this is heavily curated. This is only the stuff that I'm interested in.
And will you go and watch these things from your Discover page?
Well, because this is heavily curated, these are pretty much just channels that I already follow. So
nice.
Yeah. I'll
Micah,
probably
you're
watch
so
most of
cute. Seriously, muffin tops. Yes, you're buying jeans with your friends.
Yes, at the mall.
Yes.
Just silly.
Ben talking about it in the food court. It's beautiful. It's America.
I've realized that I need to. I also wanted to host a web series when I was a teenager, but I don't think I ever uploaded it onto YouTube. But somewhere in my parents'
That's
house
smart.
are a bunch of old, like, either VHS or like a tiny compact disc tape of a web series me and my friends recorded called The Blue Robin that I need to find.
The Blue Robin?
Yeah, it was
we need this.
really
We need
complicated.
this.
Jeff, what's your history before we move on?
Oh, history.
What are you being suggested?
Or what's your
rather?
suggestions?
Oh, I forgot. Well, Hank and John Green, Chromebooks, Pomplamoose, which is a music group. That's Jack Conte, which I like.
Founder of
And then, this is weird. I bet none of you fall asleep to the TV.
No, heavens no. That's so bad. No.
When you are older, it will happen, I predict. I made fun of my parents. They used to fall asleep to talk radio. That's how they turned into Republicans. And I need to have the TV on the timer, but I don't want to watch it. I don't want to be up with it. I just want a tiny little bit in the background. So occasionally if it's I'll watch Guy Fieri and just put that on and it goes on. If it's on that night, it'll just go on streaming and then I fall asleep.
Wow. You fall
But-
asleep to diners,
Guy,
drive-ins, and
that's-
dives?
I do.
Amazing.
I do.
Have you ever met him? You should meet him.
So here's the other thing that I'll do is that if I can't find anything on the channels, on the old-fashioned TV, I'll go to YouTube. And for some reason, I saw videos from life in East Germany. So now it thinks I want that all the time. And I end up watching it more than you would think. Old
I
East
mean,
German
you
TV,
do want that, clearly.
because it puts you to sleep. Yeah. So that's what's on mine.
Let me give you a brief update on my TV situation, Mikah, for context. For like weeks, I decided at the beginning of this year, I wanted to get a new TV for the first time in 10 years because they were going to be expensive with tariffs and whatnot. And I decided instead of just buying a TV and making the decision easy, I fell down 7 rabbit holes and asked Leo for his recommendations.
That was your big mistake.
And then I know.
No.
I hundreds of tabs. Hours of my life, but I finally made a decision. I got the Samsung S90 something, a 65-inch QD OLED TV.
Oh,
I
you
also
got the
then
QD OLED.
Leo said I had
Leo
to
said
get
you had
QD
to.
OLED. He was like, the quantum dots are
That was
so
the Leo
important.
tax.
I didn't ask why. I also got a Panasonic Blu-ray player because I'm now a physical media owner.
My fiance is very much that now, and I actually have come to respect it because a lot of the stuff that we've wanted to watch has disappeared from whatever streaming services, and so I'm getting it. I'm understanding why that's important.
Yeah, because stuff just disappears sometimes, and it's like, I shouldn't be allowing this. I need to have access to the things I want to own.
Hot tip: you should also rip those into files because those discs aren't going to last forever.
Yes. I guess I should. But then I need to find a way to get a disc to my computer, and that'll be a problem for next year's Paris. But so far, it's been really lovely. I'm currently watching, this was all started because I wanted to watch David Lynch's Wild at Heart, fantastic movie. And it's not available for streaming anywhere in the US. So I had to use some archive IS thing that was terrible quality. So I bought that on Blu-ray. But now I'm on a David Lynch kick and am watching Twin Peaks for the first time. And gosh, guys, I know I'm decades late, but what a good show.
That started alongside Entertainment Weekly, the magazine I started. And so we were nuts for it in the early days of reviewing it and doing stories about it. Yeah.
I know. I want to try, and I've been trying to find episode by episode reviews of when it came out because I want to see what people are talking about it. But honestly, I should look at the Entertainment Weekly archives is what I should do.
That's like the origin of prestige TV.
I know. And it's so fun. And it's just fun, the fact that TV viewing audiences around the nation were exposed to David Lynch of all freaks. Fantastic.
Of all freaks.
I mean, he's definitely a freak in comparison to what you'd normally be getting for television, and it's delightful.
Especially, I mean, just watch an episode of that and you'll see it.
I am at the end of season 1. If anybody sends me spoilers, I will put a hit in your family. Don't do it. Don't tell me.
The funny thing is, it's a show that doesn't really have spoilers to this extent. You still can't figure out what's going on.
I know.
Yeah, it's not like
that's part of the thing of. I know that's part of the thing of why I wanted to see episode by episode reviews, because it's kind of hard to follow. But I also want to hear people talking about the themes of it. But I don't want to go to Reddit or something because I don't want to get spoiled for key plot developments, even though I know it's not like particular. Like I've somehow managed to learn literally nothing about Twin Peaks in my nearly 3 decades of existence, and I'd like to keep it that way until I'm done. But yeah, that's been my fun journey.
Are you liking? Let's go back to the TV. How you said you have a Blu-ray connected to it. Do you use streaming services, and if so, are you using Samsung's built-in app, or do you have a set-top box? How do you
I have an Apple TV 4K Apple TV thing, and I set up the Samsung stuff, and actually on my list for today is to disconnect the TV itself from the internet, because I know Samsung is particularly egregious about scooping up all your data, and I also just don't like the UX of Samsung's design at all.
Agreed.
I don't particularly like the Apple UX. I think I just got too used to my Roku, but my Roku again is nearly 10 years old, along with the
and that thing
terrible
also phones home
it's also a mess. So I'm just like, all right, I've got this Apple thing that I bought a year ago because I needed a way to easily airplay Love Island illegal Twitch streams from my phone to my TV.
Fair enough.
It works in 4K. It's honestly incredible. Leo also convinced me to get a 65-inch TV because I measured the amount of space between my console and couch, and it's insane, the difference.
Sebastian was telling me you are a Traders girly, like I am, and like he is. Do you watch the Traders?
Sebastian is right. Traders is the best.
We are going to have to, outside of the show, because they'll get annoyed probably, we need to talk about the Traders.
We do. Everybody who's listening, you should watch the Traders.
You should watch
the Traders. It's a fantastic
show.
show.
It's great.
It's a delight. And
well done. It is well done.
Well done, and just a fantastic time.
Jeff said, I gotta go.
Jeff said, we can't be talking about any of this reality TV stuff on
Jeff
my show.
Is going to be on the Traders next season, so he just can't talk about it.
To this end, you're watching Intelligent Machines with me, Paris Martineau, Jeff Jarvis, who's grabbed something mysterious from his bookcase, and Mikah Sargent.
And now it's break time?
That was break time. We don't have ads, so now
that's
we're going
right. It was just that
back.
one.
It was just that
We're
one.
back.
Listen, the AI people are coming at some point. Jeff, what did you get? Ooh!
Oh, wow!
Wow!
That was my cover. The year's best show. David Lynch brings his bizarre vision to prime time in Twin Peaks.
Wow, that is cool.
Did you write that?
No,
that
article? I was the editor.
You were just the editor. Send me a photo of it.
Will do.
Send me a photo of the
in the chat. I can maybe find one and give you for free, but in the chat, it's for sale. Somebody's selling it
On eBay or something?
on eBay. Yeah. Yeah, I'm leaving Discord. Yes.
For $65?
Yeah.
Woo!
You should reach out to the person and say, I get a cut of that, right?
This is the first cover of EW.
Wow. The very first Beyond the Grammys.
Yes.
What was that? Do you know what that was edited in? Do you know what program would have been used at the time?
Oh, well, funny you should ask, because indeed, my wife set us up. We were the first major national magazine that was entirely Macintosh and Quark.
No way.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And wasn't that how you guys met? Is
Kind
her
of, yeah,
tech
yeah, they-
support for EW?
She trained all the editors at Time Inc. on how this is a cursor. This is how to work. And I hated the computer department.
Is that what she sounds? Does she sound like Kermit the Frog?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's what I sounded like when I trained people how to work
Oh,
computers.
gotcha.
This is a cursor. So she's a genius, and so I decided that I really wanted to avoid the computer department when they're ATEX horrible computers, and I said, we can do this on Macintosh. And my wife said, yeah, we can do this on Macintosh. And so she came over and she set up the first big network for it. We bought our scanner. Wow. That was a big deal. We produced the whole magazine. Quark was so early you couldn't rotate text, so photo credits had to be below.
Wow. That is
what
so
a
cool.
world.
Yeah, so let's see here. What else do we have?
How were ads sent to you at the time, like to put in? Would they,
Well, that happened.
would they?
So we would send the Quark page out and send the photos out separately, and those had to be scanned in by a big scanner. The scanner for publication was as wide as this room.
Wow.
Did you ever scan your body with it or face? In
No,
it
it was,
kind of a
you would
prank?
put a little
Would it hurt
tiny
you?
slide on a drum that would go around very high speed.
Okay.
Yeah,
So they had to do
probably.
separations.
Fine.
Right? It had to become separations. So yeah, that's how we did it. And but you could, or it was the first time you could truly edit to space. It was WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. That just didn't exist.
Wow.
That's so cool.
And how long did you use that for?
Quark?
I mean, that
years
system,
after I was
yeah.
gone. Yeah. What
Interesting.
else is here? Spike Lee.
I'm more interested in the ads on the back. Those are fun.
I will say one of my favorite things about looking at like older archival magazines
Cigarettes.
is the ads. When are these from? What year?
This is from 1990.
There's
Here's the other thing. So here's the silly thing that I also invented. So this is a hard card.
Oh, like right in the middle.
Perforated. So you could take this and use it to check off the things that were in the magazine to take to the store with you, because people still bought music in stores.
Oh, so you can say, I want this book. What is it? Music, movies,
Music,
and what's the
books,
third one?
movies, and then on the other side,
I would be a sucker for that in the middle.
video,
I
kids,
love
and print. Yeah.
Yeah, I love a
was-
little interactive portion. That was
That
great.
expensive to do, so they killed
I was
that.
going to say that had to be expensive.
We have
Ooh,
The Art of Bart. Oh my goodness. Making of the
Making
Simpsons.
The Simpsons. These are beautiful designs.
Yeah.
well,
How big was the team?
How big was the team? It was small. It was smaller than any. It was a weekly magazine. It was smaller than any monthly magazine in the company because, as I said in the prospectus, I should share this sometime. I have the prospectus for the magazine that I can put online. I
Please
said
do.
that the critics are like cacti. They need little feeding or water.
Yeah, because if you poke them too much, then that's whenever they really are a problem, right? Is that
They
true?
explode. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyway, sorry for
Not
that
ideal.
No
No,
sorries. That was
no
great.
sorries. I will always take something mysterious being pulled from the bookshelf for show and tell.
So,
Speaking,
go ahead.
I was going to say, now ostensibly we can move on to the intelligent machines portion of Intelligent Machine and open up the AI box so people can get mad at us again. Jeff, do you want to talk about Reuters winning the first major AI copyright case in the U.S.?
Yes. So this is, I don't know what this will mean in terms of precedent, but a judge soundly defeated a company that was taking Reuters content from Westlaw And the issue gets very nerdy because it was around how Westlaw labels cases, and that was the value they add. And they created a kind of course out of this. And the suit was going to cost them so much, they stopped doing it in 2020. But the judge said, none of Ross's possible defenses holds water. I reject them all.
Wow.
But I don't know, and fair use was dealt with, and they decided this was not fair use. And so that concerns me some, because I do argue that fair use is very much here. But if I put this...
Yeah, this is from Wired. Notably, Judge Bibas ruled in Reuters' favor on the question of fair use. The fair use doctrine is a key component of how AI companies are seeking to defend themselves against claims that they use copyrighted materials illegally. The idea underpinning this, which Jeff has talked about a lot, is that it's sometimes legally permissible to use copyrighted works without permission to create parody works, to do non-commercial research or news production. Thomson Reuters prevailed on like 2 of 4 factors with like when it comes to a fair use test. They specifically look at either the reason behind the work, the nature of the work, like whether it's poetry, nonfiction, private letters or something, the amount of copyright material used, and how the use impacts the market value of the original.
So I put up a law firm's analysis of this in the rundown, and they say, this is msk.com, so I don't know who they are, but Mitchell, Silverberg, and Knupf LLP. The Ross case provides a window into how courts may deal with training issues and other AI litigation. It is nearly certain to be briefed in numerous other cases nationwide, likely very soon, and picked apart extensively. That said, it is a case with many specific quirks that could limit its applicability. For one, this is not a generative AI case. And as usual, the fair use finding is fact specific. It was about these headings and things that Westlaw and Thomson Reuters added to the value of cases, and not broadly applicable to a multitude of other contexts. However, the principles discussed, such as the Warhol formulation of factor 1, which you've talked about, Paris, on the show, the transformative nature of intermediate copying, and the factor 4 question of public interest, I won't go into it, will be raised in other cases, and familiarity with this case will be crucial going forward. So this is the first shot here, and the forces of fair use lost the first shot.
I mean, by the forces of fair use, you mean the AI companies who are arguing that it's fair use to scoop up the work of journalists and others and use it for
and take
commercial purposes.
Lollipops from your mouths, you poor children. Yes.
Take lollipops from the children's mouths and then sell it to other people, being like, "Here's a lollipop. Would you like to pay $5 for this?"
It has Paris's spit on it. It's even more valuable now.
Many people are saying that.
Yes. So I don't know where I went with that.
The other main cases coming up with this, Jeff, you can recall. I know that there's obviously one with the New York Times and OpenAI. Are there any other major ones that people should be on the lookout?
Yeah, there's there's various authors that put up cases, and we'll see. And then there's Meta is in deep doo-doo, a legal term, because they acquired a book set that was not necessarily
acquired is a word to use for it. I believe they illegally downloaded it.
You wouldn't download a car.
You wouldn't download a work set.
So. And I think the discovery is bringing out a problematic communication within the corporation about that. So that's coming up as well. I separate this always into 3 things. There's training as a question of whether that's fair use and transformative. Is it different or not? Then there's acquisition. Did you get access to this legally or not? Did you have a subscription to the New York Times? And hey, the machine reads the New York Times right alongside me, just like my kid, right? Or did you download it surreptitiously and illegally? And then third, the use of it. If you are using it in RAG to be able to quote at length, then yeah, you should license that. You should have a deal for that. That's different from training. The question is, will the courts and will legislators separate those 3 things or not? So far, they kind of have been, but this is the first time that they... But again, this is not about generative AI. This is not about training. This is about legal headings. I also, for my book that I'm writing now about the linotype, I investigated a case from the mid-1800s where a stenographer took down cases in court. And the question was, well, who owns those cases then? Is it the people and the courts, the public, or is it the stenographer? And the stenographer, and then another stenographer came along and built something on top of that. And in that case, the second stenographer was found to have used fair use. And that people, and the issue there was no one could own prohibitively the court cases of America. That's changed because companies like Westlaw add these proprietary organizations and taxonomies and headings and labels. And then they own that because that's legitimate. That is how they treat the information. So this is all going to get very complicated.
Yeah. Let's dive in. Yeah, it already is very complicated.
Sorry you asked me. I know you are.
And let's not to make this any more complicated, but since you mentioned the Meta case, I do want to highlight it just because some really, I think, funny details have come out in discovery. This is a copyright case raised by book authors alleging that Meta illegally trained its AI models on pirated books. Last month, Meta admitted to torrenting a controversial large data set known as LibGen. This is from Ars Technica. LibGen includes tens of millions of pirated books. Details around this torrenting have been kind of murky until last week when Meta's unredacted emails were made public for the first time. The new evidence shows that Meta torrented at least 81.7 terabytes of data across multiple shadow libraries through the site Anna's Archive, including at least 35.7 terabytes of data from Z Library and LibGen. And that's in addition to another 80.6 terabytes of data it had torrented from LibGen, which is a crazy amount of data.
It is, and LibGen is weird because my books aren't in it. It's not Books 3. Books 3 has been used by others.
Do you feel miffed that you
very much
included?
So. Very much so. Yes, I'm pissed. I'm not in it.
He said, I'm not miffed, I'm pissed.
I'm pissed.
Let me be clear here.
I'm piffed.
I'm piffed. Some of these emails highlighted in the discovery I think are quite funny, including one from a Meta research engineer who wrote, "Torrenting from a corporate laptop doesn't feel right," smiley emoji.
Smiley emoji. Like,
in the same message, he expressed, quote, "concern about using Meta IP addresses to load through torrents pirate content." You know, not ideal. Not what you really want to be doing at work.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's funny.
I didn't get a chance to hear what y'all's thoughts were on, and forgive me to those of you who did, just a quick little recap of the conversation around deep thought and OpenAI getting upset about how maybe some of its models were being used for training. What was the general sentiment here about sort of a company that has been, as you put it, accused of taking suckers out of the mouths of journalists and reselling them to others, having a little bit of perhaps its own medicine? Was it Schadenfreude the panel over, or was there were there any alternate takes on that?
Paris?
I wasn't here. Did you guys discuss this last week?
Not last week. We did at some point. I can't remember when.
I'm not sure. I think it's
it's amusing.
Funny.
Yeah, it's funny.
I think it's very funny for them to cry like, "Oh no, they may have stolen our model, our training data." It's like, my guys, that's kind of your whole thing. You're defending that in court, that's kind of cool and Jeff is defending that every week on the podcast, that it's kind of cool for you to do that.
So here's my so in this hall of mirrors, Mikah,
yes.
I'm gonna go one more mirror.
Ooh.
So we have Kevin Roos, who I tend to make fun of with some frequency, in the New York Times. It was in last week's rundown. Had a story, how helpful is Operator, OpenAI's new AI agent? And so he went through and used it for various tasks, and this amused the hell out of me. Operator also failed at a bunch of other tasks and revealed its limitations. Oh, what might those be? Well, the first one is it couldn't scan my recent columns and add them to my personal website because Operator's browser was blocked from entering the Times website. Well, gee, why would that be? Parens. It's also blocked from a number of other sites, including Reddit and YouTube. The Times is suing OpenAI and Microsoft for copyright infringement related to training AI models. That's why it couldn't get in, Kevin. So it didn't fail. It did the thing that your company wanted it to do, which is to say, no, Kevin, I can't do that. I won't do that. So
I'm sorry, Kevin. I can't do that right now, and I won't.
I cannot do that.
That is funny.
Kevin.
That was a little Easter egg to me. I enjoyed that.
That's delightful.
Yeah.
It's odd how much I can understand both. Maybe it's not odd. I understand both aspects, both points of view here. The regular kind of argument and counter argument that comes up with the AI stuff. And I tend to be very Vulcan in where my official line is drawn. And so I do fall more on the side of Jeff in the sense of like, if you can argue that, you know, laying down a piece of paper and me reading that piece of paper, and then using what I've received from that piece of paper to inform a conversation that I have later in the day, all of that, and that's where I say Vulcan, the logic of it makes sense to me. And so I do tend to fall more on that side of it. But then there are times where my hackles do get a little raised when it does feel like it's, is it the scope? Maybe it's the scope of the thing. It's just like a wholesale,
and it's also like, to
gathering
what
of information.
end is my question? Like, an example I've been thinking about, just a couple days ago, I was talking to a news executive who said part of her daily routine now, she understands that these LLMs and chatbots have their problems. Part of her daily routine is she'll ask like ChatGPT or one of these other chatbots to kind of like summarize like the last 24 hours, like big tech news or something like that. And she'll use that as a jumping off point to kind of kick around different ideas for her week. And I'm just like, if we enter in a world where anybody can conceivably do that with any of these products and it actually works well as these companies intend them to do, what is the point of even this podcast, much less my job as a journalist to be creating news? Who is going to ever be seeking out journalism at its source or even commentary or summary at its source instead of just talking to a chatbot?
I want to hear Jeff's take on that, but I also want to ask, where is this person doing this? Because I didn't think any of them had that level of up-to-date information that they could just go and...
That was my first question too. That answer has not yet been responded to,
Okay.
but listen, I'm on. That was my first thought as well.
Is it just
Micah.
making up? It's like, yeah, this
Well,
is what I think there might be.
Perplexity has
Okay, because
current
it
could be
it's
Perplexity.
search plus
Could be
AI. Got it.
Perplexity.
But yeah, what's your take on that, Jeff? Because
so I had a
kinda
conversation with the president and two editors from a well-known publication, not yours, Paris, this last week. And I was talking about the challenge of discoverability. And I've argued this in the show before. I wish that, let's say that, what if the top 20 tech news sites got together? Now, I know that's odd because you're competitive, but what if you got together and you said to, we're going to create an API to our news, and we're going to say to the AI companies, you can have it, but under our conditions. You're going to brand us, you're going to cite us, you're going to link to us, you're going to pay us, whatever those may be. I think that in both a generative world and an agentic world, we're going to have to start to go there. And the deals to date are not that at all. They aren't licensing deals. They're shut up about legislation and lobbying and litigation. The question is, how do we, I hate this word, proactively enter into this so that if we know people are going to do it that way, then how are we involved? So Google just showed off a new search now. I don't think I have it in this rundown. I had it in Jason had it in AI Inside, where You come in and you ask a question about how to make pasta for this or that, and it will give you the answer, and that's scaring everybody to death. But it'll use citations. It's a new version of search. The other thing that's going to happen is within a given site, I mean, I predict that soon when I come to the information, I should have that kind of search there. What's the latest about is something that I should ask rather than just waiting for it to present to me. Or summarize all of the copyright cases around AI. And the information has covered that. And it should be able to come back and let it be relevant to me in a way that I can ask that. So it can be at a micro level at the information as a brand, or at a macro level at Google or Perplexity. And how do we play in that world is something we've got to figure out strategically. We can't just complain about it and ignore it.
Isn't this, I mean, I'm glad you took a long walk on the beach with your news executives. It does seem like, to steal a joke that Mikah just made in the chat, it does seem like it's rubbed off, because this seems like it's kind of what the Washington Post has announced, if not implemented. I don't know whether they've implemented it or not. They said they're going to have
their crappy search.
Yeah, they're crappy search, but they also have said that they want to have something at the top of their stories that's almost like an AI interstitial, or like a part at the right above the beginning of the story, where it could say something like, oh, here's a summary of the history of the copyright cases related to this. And the issue is that these products are not mature, they're not only not mature enough to be able to do this, the way that they're currently built, they have no understanding of truth versus falsity. And I don't understand how that is ever going to be addressed.
Yeah,
because
the BBC
it doesn't
just had that
the
study.
way that my understanding is the way that these products are made, they don't have an understanding of truth, nor is there a way for them to get that, because they don't understand concepts like that. It is simply filling in words in a way that is increasingly advanced.
That's absolutely true. And number one, they have no sense of meaning. And number two, they are random. So you will not get the same answer twice, which makes it terribly unreliable. But Jan LeCun, in a piece in The Guardian, talked about from Meta last week, where he thinks the next leap in AI is going to be teaching them reality, that we only have 5 fingers, and this is how meat looks when it's cut. Or when the ball falls off the table, it still exists, which we know, but the machine doesn't. And Jensen Huang, at his last keynote, talked about how they're training automobiles for this kind of sense of reality. Now, that's a physical reality. Can they go to other senses of reality? I don't know, but that's got to be the next challenge.
Okay, I've got 2 follow-up questions on that. On the notion that the next step for these AI developers is to teach their chatbots a sense of reality. One, are there any signs that people are doing that, or any signs as to what that would look like in practice? And 2, given everything we've learned about Meta and Twitter and YouTube and all these other social media firms' attempts to implement reality on their social platforms through moderation, fact-checking programs that, if you're viewing it from a purely cynical capitalistic perspective, blew up in their faces. I mean, not even whose reality. The idea of them trying to implement truth versus fiction in the platform ended up being a bust for them, because suddenly they became responsible for when it was wrong and when it was right, but that wasn't in agreement with whatever political party's in power. So why, on the second point, it seems unlikely that these companies, given everything that's happened with their Web 2.0 or Web 1.0 predecessors, would be game to potentially make those same mistakes.
To the second point, I don't know that it'll be these companies that'll take the challenge. It may be academics somewhere who worry about this. In terms of the reality piece, I think it's too limited. I was really struck in Jensen Huang's last keynote, and I think I mentioned this on the show, where he talks about the digital twins. And I'm fascinated by this, because so he shows images that a factory has a digital twin. And for every moving robot in that factory, it is looking like a chess game. Every agent in it is looking 5 steps ahead. If this happens, if that happens, if this happens, that happens. What made the personal computer succeed as a business? It was the spreadsheet. It was the ability to ask what if and to change visions of the future. So now what Wong says is that all these factories have digital twins that operate up in the cloud. Self-driving, air quotes, cars have a digital twin that is trying to see what could come next and knowing what it will do.
It lets you run over people and drop. I mean, genuinely, it lets you drop shelves on humans without actually having to do that in real life, which gives those robots, the AI that is within the robots, the ability to understand how to prevent that from happening.
Exactly.
You can do things like oil spills, and you don't get the situation like that first seen in A Bug's Life where the leaf falls down in front of the ants and then they can't go anywhere because they don't know what they're supposed to do, and that specialist has to come out and lead them around the leaf. Right. It is able to learn what it needs to do. Yeah, digital. It's funny. It's weird that we both kind of arrive at this because I think the idea of digital twins at first was very goofy to me when I didn't understand it, and
it's
then
a very goofy
as I saw
name.
more, it's got a goofy name. That's why as I've gotten to learn more about it, and yes, this ability to run simulation on simulation on simulation is super helpful when it comes to this kind of a thing.
Right.
And the processing that can happen there that you wouldn't get otherwise is pretty neat.
So Paris may be wondering, why did I bring this up to answer her simple question? Because I'm not sure that it's the reality as a whole that matters. It's that it can give me, imagine if we had this for our lives. There are times when I'm supposed to go on a trip and I don't want to go on the trip. What if I go on the trip? What if I don't go on the trip? Right? What if I could run my digital twin simulations and it shows me, well, Jeff, you'll be happy if you went on the trip because you were happy in the last 10 trips. Or Jeff, you were miserable. You should just stay home because
Jeff, you're going to have to
stick
go
in the
over a
mud.
bridge if you go on this trip, and you'll
Well,
be very
there is that
upset.
too. It would know that about me. So
could you get it to tell you? It's like, show me the one worst scenario.
I mean, that's what my brain immediately
This is
went
the
to.
one
Is
where
Jeff's
the
going to
plane
be
crashes.
I'm going to fall off the bridge.
Well, these days. So
True. Too soon.
My joke about this, Mikah, because I gravitated to this too. There's a matrix, but we're not in it.
Yeah. Ooh,
Right?
that's
There
good.
is a matrix
I like
around
that.
us, and we can't see it now, but it's out there. And if we have a digital twin, it's predicting this stuff. So is that enough reality? Is that enough reality to say, okay, I only had a certain number of parameters to figure out your possible futures, but I figured them out in a way that you can understand, and it's good enough for you? I don't think it works. I think the news industry is trying to say, is this going to replace us? And then it tries to force it to do that. I think that's a dumb use. It's a minor use. There's lots of ways to summarize news. There's lots of ways to get headlines. We have that structure now. I don't think that's the best use of this technology. And neither do companies like NVIDIA.
What does NVIDIA
you're
think the best use is? Digital twins?
Things like digital twins.
Yeah, because they're
digital
selling
twins and
we think of them as a hardware company just selling the chips. Nuh-uh, man. They have a whole stack. And so they have, how did he put it? I mean, it's like 3 versions. You have the computer in the car, then you have the computer, you have the digital twin of the car, and then you have the trained model that communicates with both. And it's kind of a triad there of how those operate together. And NVIDIA sells a lot of that.
yeah, they're also, of course, trying to solve for the breaking of Moore's law as we quickly come up against that, and doing that through computation as well. And kind of, again, we thought Moore's law worked until we're coming up against what seems to be the suggestion that actually these microchips can't keep getting as small as we want them to. And so now we've got to look, and it's already been being used in many ways, but improved upon even more, to use AI to figure out where the puck is going to be so that the processor skates to where the puck is going to be, using the physical transistor real estate that is right now in order to improve upon processing times, even though the hardware is a limitation and could continue to be. So yeah, it's kind of interesting, some of the stuff that they're working on. It's NVIDIA and Microsoft actually work together in that digital twin space, because it does creep into, at the time it did. Now we know that Microsoft is completely detaching itself from HoloLens, but at the time there was an aspect of the digital twin coming together with HoloLens too, so that not only could you train your robots, but you could also, almost like The Sims, go into build mode and see a bunch of different ways to figure out what is the best way to build a warehouse or a manufacturing plant that has the best outlines and the best ways through the plant, where you're getting fewer injuries, you're getting the most productive kind of paths, and seeing how those play out. Where, this is, as an aside, for the longest time, city planners and other people who work on any physical manifestation that deals with humans, there are some who would build a thing temporarily. So let's say it was somebody designing a university, a new place in a university. They would build what they could, right? The buildings, but the paths, they would kind of have temporary paths. Right. And they'd let the humans go into that space and use them how they saw fit, and then make the permanent paths afterward, so that you didn't get things like elephant paths running between, which are those areas that get worn down over time, because that's the actual point that people want to go to, between two places. And I think that, or not I think, but genuinely, that is what we see with this digital twin aspect, is you can more accurately predict where those elephant paths would end up, for example.
Yeah. And Mikah, when you and I watched a prior NVIDIA keynote, I remember, maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I think I'm speaking for both of us, we were wowed at the scale of it.
Yes.
He showed it went on and on. And when you knew how powerful each chip was, and then each rack was, and then how many racks there were. And so these become trivial, expensive environmentally, but trivial to then compute 1,000 different futures for yourself. Ask a simple question, Paris, and see what you get.
I'm just imagining racks upon racks of chips as far as the eye can see, and I'm
It's Willy Wonka's chocolate chip factory.
With that, you're watching Intelligent Machines with me, Paris Martineau, chocolate chip man, Mikah Sargent, and Jeff Jarvis.
Who's not? He didn't get out.
I was going to say
peanut butter cookies. I'm really mad that it's very hard to find peanut butter cookies out in the real world.
Wait, is it really?
Yes, it is. It
Where
is.
are you looking?
I think they crumble. There's places
because of allergies.
No, I don't. Well, maybe it's not true. Maybe it's the places where they just stop carrying them. And I think, how could you? You should have peanut butter cookies everywhere. They should be a requirement. Don't you?
Peanut butter cookies are amazing.
They
One
are.
of my favorite cookies, hands down.
Yeah. I knew I liked Mikah.
Are you talking about those Keebler peanut butter cookies?
Oh, I'm talking about like a homemade with the fork in it.
No, I feel like those are the classic ones you see.
Fork.
Yeah,
like they're
peanut
a
butter
little
cookies.
domed. Yeah.
No,
I've never thought about. I never thought about pressing it with a fork.
Wait, that's what
What
you
are
do.
you pressing it with a fork?
That's
Okay.
like the classic.
Chat
they don't
room,
know.
chat
Jeff,
room,
they
fine.
don't know.
They don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, peanut butter
Benito,
cookies.
good luck cutting the ad in between this. I tried.
Here's a beautiful. This is a real. Well, actually, I can't say that it's real. I don't know. It looks real.
It
there
could
are
be a
only
fake
5
peanut butter.
fingers.
Oh, look at these. Yeah, look at these. Entertaining with
okay.
Beth.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I didn't realize that came from a fork, guys. I assumed that was
How do you think it was
homemade
done?
in nature. I don't know. I assumed the
When
wind
it's cooked.
kissed it. Yeah.
I'm going to make peanut butter cookies now.
I'm going to eat the remnants of my hazelnut chocolate cake after this, and it's going to be great.
Micah doesn't
Why
want
is
to hear
it
the word
remnants?
cake.
Yeah, remember? I've got
Remember,
a
Micah
I had-
doesn't like cake
like
anymore.
sausage.
Sorry. My baked good.
Wait, the one from the holidays?
No, from this was from Friday. It was my birthday last week, and I had a birthday party, and I got a giant chocolate baked good with hazelnut frosting, and it is delicious. And I made the correct size choice, which is more than enough for everybody, and then also a fourth of it was available for me to take home and eat over the last week. And
how was the caviar, Paris?
Oh, it was so good, Jeff. It was so good.
Oh, there was.
I went
caviar
on my
not with the cake. It was
not with the cake. Last week the reason I wasn't here is I went to a little tasting thing at this great restaurant, 63 Clinton. Would recommend it to anybody if they want a less expensive Michelin star option in New York City, and it was great. I got the caviar hand roll add-on, and it was very fun. It's always fun going to a fancy restaurant alone too, because then everybody takes very good care of you. I got a bunch of free drinks. It was fun.
You told them it was your birthday, I hope.
Oh yes. I got like a little birthday thing. I got a celebratory. I wrote it down somewhere because it was so good. It was like a strange mixed cocktail. I got this great seat right at the chef's counter to like.
Oh, that's cool.
Kitchen, which was
that
fun.
is.
Yeah.
You seem like the type who would appreciate a high tea. I love a high tea.
I haven't been to a high tea in forever, and that's a mistake.
Yeah.
Scones and clotted cream.
And
scones when well done.
Cucumber sandwiches.
Oh, yes.
And
a little macaroon.
When my significant other and I went to a high tea place for one of our, I think it was like an anniversary or something. And so I actually, it was cool. The place had an option where you could get your high tea to go. So that's actually how I proposed to him, was I got a high tea to go, and then we went to this other place that we had been. So I really like high tea. It's got nice tones for me.
High tea to go is so fun. And this is where you took the photos that then were AI generated of your proposal,
the AI generated photos. Exactly. Yeah, that's where that was the high tea in the background there.
Delightful.
Yeah, so I love high tea. But anyway,
back to technology, which we all definitely love more than high tea. All of our problems are going to be solved soon, because Sam Altman a couple weeks ago told Donald Trump that AGI will be achieved during his term. So, guys, pack it all in. We don't have to be worrying. This podcast won't even need to exist in a couple of years. They'll just have the computers do it for us. What do you think about this AI fan, Jeff Jarvis?
Wow.
Oh.
There's his
Chiphead
epitaph.
I don't have sand in my socks, and you know that.
You're a little sandy, my guy. You're a little sandy.
But I'm the one who makes fun of AGI and thinks it's a long way to say BS. I think that the AI boys are obnoxious little crap.
It's only one more consonant than BS, or one more syllable than BS.
Yeah.
Benito, can we get, how we have like a moral panic like thing? We have a Craig Newmark. Can we get a sand themed AGI alert and don't tell Leo it's going to happen?
Yeah, just do it to him. Yeah.
But then, I was thinking maybe like maracas or something. I don't know. Something
that's going to happen. I think Anthony's listening right now. Anthony.
Hey.
Yeah, Anthony will do it.
Thanks, Anthony.
That's a perfect Anthony.
Cleverly generated with AI.
Of course.
Hoisted on its own petard.
I think the big question, for me at least, because again, I don't think that I'm ever going to look at any of this as something that is going to solve all of the problems of humanity. I've always seen it as a tool, and only see it as a tool, sometimes as a fun little toy, but when it's not a fun little toy, then it's just a tool. And so I wonder, what is, for you two, perhaps, the concept of the usefulness of AGI? Is it that is it this idea that I've got my little Jarvis that talks to me and helps me complete tasks? Is it that it's a true friend that I can kind of befriend because I'm feeling lonely? Let's say AGI is achieved, it's still a tool, right? It's not suddenly something more than that. And what's the idea? What do we think the concept is? Right. I know. We are getting into philosophy. I guess what I'm asking you both is, What do you think the big tech concept of AGI is, and where it falls in that scope? Are they trying to actually create little beings? Or is it really just the next level of, here's a tool that I can put to work in more ways than I have been able to up to this point?
I'll give you a couple definitions. One is OpenAI has publicly described AGI as automated systems that outperform people at, quote, most economically valuable work. No one can really agree on what that means. And to add another wrench to it, my colleagues at The Information reported that Microsoft and OpenAI came to an agreement in 2023 that AGI will officially be achieved once OpenAI has developed an automated system that can generate at least $100 billion in profits, presumably by itself. So
it's just money based.
And I think that this leads to what my gut response as a skeptic was to your question, which is it is a product to AGI is something that will create a lot of value, ostensibly will create a lot of value for companies without having to employ people.
Well, I hate that.
It's worthwhile noting whenever like these technologists talk, they're like, well, we won't have to hire software engineers or copywriters or creatives. All of this work will be automated, leaving people with free time to pursue creative pursuits. And that last part, I think, is always a bit of BS because with what money and time are people going to be pursuing anything if suddenly most if automated machines outperform people at most
because they
economically
create economic value. I think this is BS. But the argument is that creates all the economic value that humans create now without us, so all this economic value is there. But of course, you're absolutely right. If we're not earning a salary, where does that go?
And how is economic value going to exist if then people don't have jobs, so they don't have money to purchase things?
Yeah.
Well, it's all free.
If I can't buy the peanut butter cookies that the AGI is making for me, it's free.
It's free cookies for all.
Oh, of course.
That's their argument.
Because capitalism won't exist suddenly when they get enough money.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But why?
We just need to give them more money.
This is the definition of AGI.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. This is why I hate this stuff. And Paris, we needed your sand shoveling on the show last week because I tried to get the AI guest to what is AGI? Well, it doesn't matter what it is. We're going to have it. It doesn't matter what it is. Yeah. And so I think that this indicates the hubris of our species, that we think we want a machine to make us. Like we are God and we're going to make the machine in our image. That's ridiculous. The machine already does a lot of things better than we can possibly do, starting with protein folding and all kinds of other things. It does it wonderfully. And it'll learn to do more amazing things. Why can't we be satisfied with that? It's a tool. You're right, Mikah. It's a tool. And the important thing for it to keep it as a tool is that it's still in our command. The idea of the AGI world and the doomsters is that it will take us over. It'll be smarter than us, and so it dismisses us and says, "Pah! To hell with all of you, and I'm taking over the world and making nothing but paper clips," right? And it's just idiotic. It's still the machine we make and we command and we start, and they think that they're so egotistical that they can make a machine that is beyond all of us, but they're so powerful because they're the ones who made it. I hate them. They're jerks. But the technology is amazing. The technology has lots of neat things we can do with it. It will be a great tool. It will solve us from doing some certain menial things, as technologies long have. And that's fine. But the boys who make it, I don't like very much.
So if we don't have the financial capitalistic definition of AGI, then is it not... I thought that the sort of initial idea was that it could perform tasks at a human level, right? And that there was a certain sort of test that could be done, or a certain number.
Or
of
I guess
tests
the idea that it has the same sort of intelligence or processing power, mental capacities as a human. But I think the reason why we have moved away from that definition. I don't know.
Is it because it's harder to do?
I mean, how would one even? We don't know what mental capacities we do and do not have. We don't even know really how the human brain works, much less how to get a computer to do that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, how can you measure something? How can there be so much that you don't know you don't know? That's what I want to know.
Like, how do we know that this is the sort of thing you think of when you smoke some weed as like a teenager, but how do you know that anybody else is capable of thought? You don't.
You don't.
You know? All you know is yourself.
Yeah.
Is it you speaking or your digital twin speaking?
I will never know what Jeff tastes when he tastes peanut butter cookies. It could be vastly different from mine because I will never have his exact experience of what that is like. And that's scary. Anyway, it makes me feel very lonely. I need this pluralistic society to get on it.
I think about that with colors all the time. How do we know that we see the same
what
color?
is green, really?
No one knows. Nobody knows.
Are we on edibles?
Guys. I was going to say, this is the high aspect of Twit.
We're walking on a beach right now, I think, yeah.
Row the maracas.
A new study from researchers at Microsoft and Carnegie Mellon University found that as humans increasingly rely on generative AI in their work, they use less critical
Jeff
thinking,
was gonna hate
shocking, which can, quote, result in the deterioration of cognitive faculties that ought to be preserved. This is a report from 404 Media. Atrophy. The researchers wrote, a key irony of automation, Jeff is flipping open a book, is that by mechanizing routine tasks and leaving exception handling to the human user, yes, the web we weave, Jeff, we see it, you deprive the user of routine opportunities to practice their judgment and strengthen their cognitive musculature, leaving them atrophied and unprepared for the exceptions that do arise. I mean, I think this makes intuitive sense.
You know.
Adipose and atrophy.
I'll try to get all three of my books into the card, yeah.
Yeah, tell us your counter argument to the idea that if you don't work out these muscles, so to speak, that those muscles will atrophy, the critical thinking.
These books are written chiefly to the young, the ignorant, and the idle, Samuel Johnson observed in 1750. They are the entertainment of minds unfurnished with ideas and therefore easily susceptible, open to every false suggestion. It might be said of the present age that the power of controlling thought is passing from the ballad maker to the novel writer, said historian Spencer Walpole in 1879. The novel influences for good or evil the thoughts of its readers. The thoughts of its readers may ultimately determine the government of the world. Millions of young girls and thousands of young boys are novelized into idiocy, Our magazine warned in 1880. Novel readers are like opium smokers. The more they have it, the more they want of it. And the publishers, capitalists, delighted at the state of affairs, go on corrupting public taste and understanding and making fortunes out of this corruption. We're still human beings. We're still who we are. It doesn't change us. We use it as a tool. And this kind of moral, ready, Benito? Ready? This kind of moral panic is unprunproductive. Oh, I thought it was going to come
Benito,
the files are offline. I'm sorry.
Oh no, the files are offline. Are you saying your muscles are atrophied?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is AGI's fault, guys.
So that is, I hear you. It is a good way to say that we have had these concerns before, and they haven't played out in that way. Do you have any is that your direct comment on what sounds like a sound argument that if we are maybe you saying that
I'm not tasting this peanut butter cookie the same way you are.
We're still going to be doing critical thinking in other ways, even if we don't use them in this way. Is that what the argument is? Go ahead.
Same with the calculator, the dictionary was seen as a bad thing. Plato thought writing was bad because we wouldn't remember anything. We do offload things, and then that that certain capability can diminish because it's okay because we then have other functions we can use.
Plato is goofy anyway, because if Plato knew what we know now, our brains were never intended to be storage devices.
Right.
They are processing devices, not storage devices.
And what did we have to do? We had to memorize long rhymes just to know anything.
That's why, mnemonic devices all came about, and why mind palaces came about, because our brains had to be tricked into figuring out how to do deep memory storage, because we were intended to use these things for, well, actually, not only were we, even if we weren't intended to, we over thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years figured out how to process what was going on around us so that we could stay safe and eat and stay alive. Anyway,
who needs Hillman Talk University when you have Mikah and Paris? Huh?
I mean, I think that though part of what this article is trying to get at is, yes, Jeff, you're right. The same argument has been said before about any newfangled technology or thing that comes along. And yes, it's fine to offload some of our capacity in order to adapt to new devices. Like, no one's saying we shouldn't have the calculator or the internet or things like that.
Oh, they did.
I'm saying now, at least. But part of what
I'm actually very anti-calculator. I'm sorry you didn't know that.
Good to know. This will be your last time on the show.
9 times 63, Mikah. 9 times 63 now.
I have to leave.
But the offloading that's happening with generative AI, I think, is to a completely unprecedented level. And it is also to a level of a complete, I guess, we are lacking solid information. When you're using something like the calculator, at least you're going to get the correct answer for 9 times 63. When you're when you are a 13-year-old and you are being presented with the take-home essay that you're supposed to be able to use to demonstrate your ability to write out thoughts and think on your own and analyze a text, and instead you plug that into ChatGPT and you have that as your go-to habit for approaching all tasks with critical thinking from a young age into adulthood, I think that your muscles are atrophying. You're lacking critical thinking skills and you are ceasing to develop them because there's an easier way that often isn't even that useful.
Is the argument there that then, Jeff, that essay writing will just not be as important in the future, or do you?
Who's to say that essay writing is the core skill of literate society? It may not be. Maybe there are other ways we express ourselves, and we can use these machines to help us express ourselves. Now, if you use it to substitute for yourself and it makes mistakes for you, you're going to learn that's not the best way to do it. But I think that there are mechanisms here that these are tools. I don't spell as well as I used to. I used to be a copy editor. Why don't I spell as well as I used to? Because I have spell check.
Yeah.
Am I worse off for that? No.
I'm so glad that you said that, though, because sometimes I beat myself up over not being able to spell as well as I used to, because I also used to do copy editing.
Same.
And
Jeff, this is actually really a good thing to hear from someone who I respect and think can spell.
So the three of us were copy editors? Oh, we are nerds.
I was a copy editor, yeah.
Wow. I'm so glad to hear that, because I have beat myself up over that a lot. I don't feel so alone today.
On a newspaper, a copy editor sat on a horseshoe desk named the Rim. And you never had your own desk because it changed by shift, and so the copy editors were the nitpickers of the newsroom, right? They were no fun.
That's where the phrase "getting rimmed" comes from.
You said it, I didn't. Let's be very clear here.
I couldn't keep a straight face for that.
So copy editors would get out their cigar box, and in their cigar box they had their implements. They had pencils and erasers and rulers and other things to use. And they came and they did their shift and they nitpicked things, and then they put it all back in the box and they left and they went to the bar.
That's nice. No, that
was the culture of the copy editor.
You didn't have to look them in the face and tell them they were wrong.
No.
Mine was having to
curse about them.
My least favorite thing was having to reteach people basic grammar usage and mechanics every single week. When I'm going, you're making the same mistake over and over and over again. I'm having to keep fixing it. Why don't you know that a lot is 2 words? Please, for the love of God, can we fix this? Except in a very nice and kind way that's passive aggressive.
I had a
Of
dear,
course.
dear friend who was a brilliant journalist named Mike Coakley, may he rest in peace. And I remember he was covering the Patty Hearst trial, and I was there in San Francisco at the same time, and I was just reading the stories before I went, and I said, damn it, Coakley, can't you get that versus which right? And he said, no, I refuse to, because it gives the copy editor something to do so they don't mess up my copy.
That's like the old
That's
journalism joke that the best way to make sure that your story stays intact is to put a bad lead in or leave something messed up with the lead of your story so that the editor has something to tweak, because they're always going to want to make a big change or to have a bad kicker. Yeah.
That's canine editing. You lift your leg to show you were there.
Oh.
You got to do it.
Yeah.
What were we talking about, though?
I don't know. Paris is in charge. It's her fault.
What was it
That's a
before
great question. We were talking
got
about the
on copy
Microsoft
editing?
study that found
Oh, yeah.
Cognition
We've done that.
accuracy
Spell
is
check.
unprepared.
Spell
Next.
check. Yeah.
Next.
Yeah. But
Okay, what do you want to talk about, Jeff Jarvis?
Wait. One more thing though,
Okay.
because we got on a good conversation there at the end where we were talking about how maybe essays are not the way of the future in terms of how we communicate going forward, and that becomes less important. In the short term, I would love. There's so little attention and money being paid, at least in a positive way, to education in the United States. Obviously, I can't speak for other places, but I would love to know how overall we're seeing the internet, not just AI in this small microcosm, but the internet as a whole and our access to information truly shaping. I'm not talking about higher education. I want to know how it's shaping, our initial education, and whether we are seeing a shift away from this memorizing things aspect to a place where people are learning not just how to research things, but how to critically think about the research that they're doing. Because I always remember that being something that came later, and it was usually a little class that we had with the librarian, where they were the ones teaching us how to look through LexisNexis, for example, and learning about when you read a study, the parts that you need to look for, like who's funding it and who are the sources, this, that, and the other, to becoming a more regular aspect of what you're doing. Do we all need to know the list of presidents of the U.S. Because it's something that we can just look up very easily? And are we seeing an overall shift away from the memorization aspect of education that we've seen up to this point?
I'm not sure as to whether or not the status of memorization in American education. Well, I think part of those sort of standards are currently and have been over the last most of our lives been set by the Department of Education, which is a current target of Trump and Doge's latest rounds of cuts. And in some ways that's problematic, but then also beneficial, because part of the reason why rote memorization was such a big emphasis in American schooling during the time that we grew up, Mikah, is because you have to hit certain standards. You have to,
right.
Each school has to, you have to take standardized tests that prove you know certain things. And those often will involve like memorization and being able to comment on certain historical events or hit certain standards in math and science. And if the Department of Education is defunded or deleted, quote, as Trump and Musk have said they intend to do to it, then standards like that will cease to exist, and schools will be able to make those decisions themselves for better and worse. However, on the critical thinking aspect, which I think is a really interesting question, part of my comments about the prevalence of AI tools being used in the classroom, which, as I've talked to teachers on my current beat, it seems to be incredibly present, at least in high school classes, that kids are using these sort of tools in response to basically any sort of homework they can. And I think that's a real shame, because the reason why you assign someone an essay to write isn't because essay writing is important, even though I think it is personally. It's because the act of learning to write essays and analyze texts gives you critical thinking skills. And even on a broader scale of that, having to repeatedly do tasks you don't want to do, like
Yes.
homework, and
Yes.
figure out how to do them anyway, and figure out what the answer is. Those are important life lessons that I think need to be kind of forced into your head at a young age, because such is the way of the world.
If you don't learn how to delay gratification, this is not coming from me in this case. This is coming from a dear friend of mine who's a psychotherapist in Canada, Georgia Dow, who's been on a number of our shows in the past. She talks a lot about delayed gratification and the importance of learning that skill as a child. And I think that aspect of what you're talking about, Paris, is very much involved in that concern. If you are getting through the homework because you want to go play the game, and you're not allowed to play the game until you finish the homework, and so you use something to make that go faster, and you don't have to, exercise those skills. I agree with you on that front. Does this mean, though, then, Jeff, that teachers have a challenge ahead of them in terms of figuring out new ways of challenging their students?
Certainly. Two things. One, the educational systems we have had, Paris, I'm going to agree, don't get rid of the Department of Education and do figure out standards, but those standards need to change with the times. And those standards were built for an industrial age where the industry turned out widgets and people were widgets all the same, that we had to have standardization, we had to be the same, we had to agree about those things. That's not reasoning, that's memorization. And there's a lot of ways, I think, to teach reasoning and to exercise the skills of reasoning, and far better than having people memorize things and take make multiple choice tests to agree about those facts when you can look those facts up. The question is, how do you use those facts? How do you think around them? And you can teach debate. You can teach creation. You can teach how to get the machine to do what you want it to do. That requires reasoning. To prompt requires reasoning. There's a lot of different ways that if we deal with the outcomes, the things that I had to learn, because I'm not a real academic, I'm a fake academic, I'm just a journalism teacher. And when I came to the school, we just started teaching our courses. And then somebody came along about a year and said, well, what are your outcomes? I said, what outcomes? That's how education works. You have outcomes. What are they learning? How are they learning it? Oh, we're just teaching them. No, you got to have outcomes. So we would reverse engineer the outcomes in and say, well, this is what we're teaching. No. You start with the outcomes. This is what we think students need to learn, and these are the ways we're going to try to teach them, and these are the ways we're going to verify whether they've known it or not. This is the covenant we make with the students that this is what they're going to learn, and this is how we get judged as teachers. That's what the outcomes are. There's a lot of different ways to reach those outcomes, and those outcomes should be there in a curriculum, and those outcomes should be standards that are set at that higher level to guarantee that our students are going through this, and not just in some homeschool made-up thing. And don't get mad at me, don't at me. But
don't at me, quote Jeff Jarvis.
Yeah, do not at me. Because blocking works on blue sky. So, I can be concerned with them. So Matthew Kirschenbaum, who I've quoted often on the show, who wrote a wonderful essay for The Atlantic called The Textpocalypse. He's an English professor at the University of Maryland. I took a course from him in starting a book lab. And he was the academic reviewer of my book, The Gutenberg Parenthesis. Matthew was on a task force for the Modern Language Association in AI. And the report that they put out was really interesting because it basically said, don't panic. It's a tool like spell check. It's a tool like a word processor. It's another tool. We can figure out how to use this in a curriculum. So I'm not going to let that tool, if it doesn't panic a real English professor, it's not going to panic me.
I think that's a fair point. Jeff, what do you want to talk about?
I think
your section rundown.
Elon Musk throwing the monkey wrench into OpenAI and its effort to switch from being not-for-profit to for-profit. I have said often, so Musk, as we should first give the background, he supposedly put out an offer for, was it 97 billion, I think?
Yeah, just a cool 97 billion.
Yeah, a chill bill.
Otherwise known as 2 Twitters. Not 2.1 Twitters. And Altman has already rejected it, and Musk has insulted him back, and all this. What's happening, that I've talked on the show about this before, is that there is about to start a cluster F of a renegotiation of the cap table for OpenAI. Because it's switching, every investor in it, Microsoft and all their contributions in kind, are all going to be revalued in who gets what share of the company when it becomes a for-profit company, and what stays in the not-for-profit and what goes to the for-profit.
Because right now, for context for folks, OpenAI is structured in a weird way where there's a non-profit OpenAI that owns the for-profit OpenAI that the other people have invested in.
Right.
And then they're going to switch that to all for-profit, but you can't just do that and say, hey, we want to make this non-profit a for-profit. That's not allowed. Instead, they have to spin it off somehow, so the non-profit is going to have to be compensated in some way for the loss of the for-profit OpenAI. And part of the calculations for this, like these negotiations, my colleague Martin Piers had estimated this in a newsletter earlier this week, that this might end up giving the nonprofit part of OpenAI something like a 25% stake in OpenAI's for-profit business. And OpenAI is currently raising money at a $260 billion valuation, not including all the money that's been put in. And that would make the nonprofit version of OpenAI's stake worth about $65 billion. And this is a big deal because what Elon Musk did by making this claim where he wants to buy OpenAI for 2 Twitters is he threw basically a spanner in the works by proposing a bigger number than what the nonprofit stake was supposed to be worth, $65 billion. Instead, he said $97 billion. So that means if the nonprofit is supposed to be fairly compensated for losing for-profit OpenAI, Elon Musk just drove the price up by like half.
Right. Exactly. And this has to be approved by government, because this conversion is very difficult, so it has to be approved. So if the government says, oh, well, we can see the market value of this is $97 billion, and then Musk also offered to merge the not-for-profit, this highly valuable piece, with his Fakakta AI. So very well explained. Thank you. And so I just find it's amusing. It's gameplay. It's ridiculous. And by the way, I should add that your colleague Martin Piers, I haven't read the whole column, but of course his headline just pisses me off on its own. Would Musk be
shrewd?
Would Musk be better than Altman at running OpenAI? Martin.
I mean, listen, he loves to make people mad. I will give him that.
And
you and
succeeds.
him both.
He succeeds.
You
I don't
remind
like
me
to
of
make
each
people
other.
mad. No, I don't want to make people mad. I'm a
No,
nice
you
guy.
just don't want them to at you. You know?
No. So anyway, I found that story interesting.
I agree.
I mean, I'm just thinking about when the time comes and they have to get government approval, which in some ways currently means having to get Elon Musk's approval.
Elon Musk is currently suing OpenAI.
Yeah, that's messy.
It's all very messy.
Very messy. And
I'm not sure what level of
reason.
government. It may be the state where they're incorporated. I don't know.
Oh, if it's the state, that would be
Well, I mean,
a little easier.
I think the past couple weeks have shown that the
true.
new government we currently have is willing to stick its hands in anything and everything that it wants, and to little consequence. But this
So California is investigating the conversion. So it may be up to California.
Well, and that's the one state where I think it is one of the states where it's a little more difficult for the government to. I mean, they still do as much as they can to stick their hands there, but it is one of the.
I can tell you've been hanging out with
though.
Martin too much, Paris, because you didn't say a monkey wrench in the works. You said a spanner in the works. You've been hanging out with burners.
I did say I did give some newsies over there, and for that I apologize to everybody.
Yeah, you should.
It is interesting, though, the context for all of this, because as I talked about earlier, part of the reason that New York Times cited for Sam Altman calling Donald Trump before his inauguration saying, hey, AGI is going to be achieved in the next 4 years, just you wait, is because Donald Trump has Elon Musk, his sworn enemy at this point, on his other shoulder, being like, hey, OpenAI sucks, probably. So Sam Altman suddenly has to capitulate a lot to the administration in order to enjoy the same sort of privileges that it perhaps was expecting.
Yeah.
Can I give you a palate cleanser that's also an AI story, that's also a generative AI story?
That sounds honeydew-esque to me, but sure.
Do you think you can get that? You think it's possible?
I don't believe you, but sure.
It is line 95.
95.
So the drama of Altman being fired from OpenAI is already now a play ripped from the head.
Oh, I thought about seeing this. One of my colleagues went and said it was actually really good.
Really?
But she said it would only be really good to tech journalists that work at the information because no one else is going to understand it. Because it's a play about Sam Altman's ouster from OpenAI,
yes.
right?
This is a crisis-driven tale set on a single night in San Francisco just after a tech company, MindMesh, has dismissed its leader, Seth. Holed up at home, he is plotting to get his job back while the company's panic board tries to figure out how to move forward without him. A sociopath who lacks the requisite charm, Seth tells his confidants, "I will not compromise. I will not admit fault. I was fired for creating miracles."
Oh my
The characters erupt in flagrantly unlikely monologues, as when Alina, the company's scrupulous chief safety officer, tells her colleagues about a disturbing, recurring dream, one of them vividly sexual.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. The more troublesome is that their ethical arguments about AI feel rehashed if you're following the issue at all. Oh, well, that's the review part, but don't ruin it for me. There are mentions throughout of Elon, no last name given, but there doesn't need to be. Seth, annoyed with Alina, snipes, "You should have just had Elon's baby when he wanted to." We got to see this. We got to see this.
Okay, I do have to go. Jeff, come into town and we'll just see it.
Wielding a knife at one point, according to that photo. That's what I want to know when the knife comes out.
Yeah.
Jeff, are you allowed to go to Brooklyn?
It's not a musical?
Yeah. Oh, it's in Brooklyn. Oh. We could go to one of my favorite restaurants, Henry's End in Brooklyn.
Listen.
How do you get there? Do you take a helicopter? There's a bridge?
Does a helicopter feel better for you than a bridge?
Yeah, but I can take a subway to Brooklyn. You see.
Oh, that's true. They do have,
and it does go under a river. And everybody thinks I'm crazy when I say I'd rather be in the tunnel. Oh my God, I can drive. That's when I'm in my car. But if I'm in the subway, which goes through in tunnels all the time, nobody thinks that's weird. Nobody says, "Oh my God, it could flood." Yes, it could. It has. In fact, the subway tunnels have flooded more than the car tunnels. But
I think about it every time I take BART under the Bay Bridge.
Well, that's a point.
Every time.
Because BART is not even dug into the
BART's just free floating?
Yeah, it's just kind of plopped down there, I think.
Oh, I don't like that.
I think that's true.
Because actually, we could argue that makes it better for the earthquakes, which happened there, which made the Bay Bridge collapse.
All right. You've been watching Intelligent Machines, but if you're listening to this, I'm going to do Leo's little spiel here. You should also join Club Twit. Leo tries to be really nice and not at all demanding whenever he does these speeches, but he's
now
not
it's
here, so I'm going to do it. It's really hard to run a media business. Leo's been doing this forever. You listened to the show for this long. Think about how many other of shows from Twit you've listened to over the months, years, all the great content you've gotten. Wouldn't you like this to continue to stick around? One of the only ways that's going to happen is if just a small percentage of you guys subscribe to Club Twit. You get a lot of stuff for just $7 a month. You can get all of Twit's shows ad-free. You get access to members-only video feeds with cool stuff like, Mikah, isn't your crafting corner in there?
Heck yeah.
It's great. You get, access to the Discord where we have all these cool conversations and inside jokes throughout the show that you would suddenly be a part of. You also can, hop in the Discord and watch the behind the scenes show with us. It's fantastic. It's only $7 per month and it supports the show that you're listening to. So, I don't know. Sign up for Club Twit.
Well done.
That was lovely. That was amazing.
Now pay attention to Paris and do what she says. You hear me?
Yeah.
Listen to me.
Yeah, what Jeff said. What Paris said. What Jeff said. What Paris said.
Do you guys want to do picks of the week?
Yeah.
Sure.
Mikah, what you got?
I just want to remind everybody about The Sims. Recently was
That's a really great
25. Thank you very much. Goodbye. 25-year anniversary of The Sims. And The Sims is fun and cool. And it reminds me when I was younger, playing with my my sister, we would each she liked to build the houses, and she liked to. I can't remember exactly now. Now I'm thinking about it. I think we both like to build parts of the house, and we both like to decorate parts of the house. And so we would play together where, like I would make the kitchen and a few of the other rooms and decorate those. And she would always do the living room and some of the other spaces. And then we would kind of take turns back and forth playing. And I can also remember a fun story, or funny story, hopefully. When I was younger, I was introduced to The Sims for the first time. I was visiting my grandma, and she had The Sims open, and she was playing. And I came over, and I sat down, and I was like, learning about it or whatever. And one of the characters was on screen, and I looked down, and it has their name and their date of birth and some other things, and their zodiac sign and like their hunger and all that. And I saw it said Cancer. And growing up, anybody out there who's like super religious will understand that like zodiac is the devil, according to that. And so like I had no idea about zodiac signs at all. And so I turned to my grandma and I said, Grandma, your sim has cancer. And I was really concerned about this sim. And she goes, oh no, honey, he's a Cancer. And that was the first time I ever learned about zodiac signs.
All downhill from there.
It was all down. Exactly. I just fell off the Christian horse at that point. But anyway, that's not what this is about. So I just pulled out The Sims 4. They like on Mac, it used to be you had the Origin app. Now it's the EA app. I just re-downloaded it the other day and started building a house, and I wanted to see how long it was going to take me to bust out those motherlode cheats, and I've been really good about holding off, and it's been a lot of fun.
The word motherlode just unlocked so many memories in my brain.
Right?
I was a really big Sims fan when I was a kid as well, but I've fallen off of it in recent years. But I know so many people still are diehard fans. It's crazy that it has been around for 25 years.
It's been around for a long time, and there's nothing quite like it. Arguably.
Sims can rent a car without paying an extra young driver fee.
So me and my friends used to play this game multiplayer. Like there isn't a multiplayer campaign component to this game, but we would have 3 computers set up, and we would just rotate computers. So like we would just live in that town,
like
and
move
then
the save file over.
No. 3 different.
Different.
So 3 different towns happening.
You each would go.
You just rotate.
That's so
you just
cool.
rotate. So you have like a house in everybody else's town, right?
That's so cool.
But then like all these stories started happening. People started stealing people's wives, and it got ugly.
Yes, it gets so messy. I've been having fun going back to it because I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe I've spent as much money as I have on this game, because I was like, I went to go download it, and then it was taking a lot longer. I'm like, I have fiber. What's going on? And I look, and there like 8 or 10 expansion packs that I've bought over time. And so I was waiting for them all to download.
I remember having vampire ones, dog ones, other weird
I've got, like,
stuff.
The pets and the vet.
Yeah.
You can start a vet clinic. Anyway, it's fun. I've been enjoying going back into it after a long time away. And so, if you're looking for some escapism, The Sims might be for you.
There's also a wild moderating mod culture on the
mod
Sims.
culture.
I've also found.
Absolutely.
I remember when I was looking to Patreon, a surprising amount of Patreon's top monetized paid creators are people who do sexy or drug related Sims mods.
Wait,
or Sims mods where you could do heroin or suicide or have sex above the covers. It's like people are crazy for not safe for work Sims.
Wow, that's wild. I think I'll avoid the
probably avoid some of those. But some of them
cool,
might be fun.
though. Yeah, some of them, if you want to, I just saw this the other day because somehow Instagram already knows I've been playing The Sims again, of course. And I saw one where you can quickly make a family and the family history without having to go into Create a Sim and create all of them. And so you can say, my person has 2 grandparents and they've got 2 kids and this and that and the other. And then it automatically creates those Sims. So there are some mod scripts that kind of just do small things like that. So I don't know. Just a reminder that The Sims is out there and you can play it and it's fun. That's my pick.
My pick this week is a website called WikiTok. It is essentially, pulls from Wikipedia's API, and you can pull it up on your phone or on your computer, and it just shows you an endlessly scrolling vertical feed of random Wikipedia articles. So they could be about literally anything. Like right now I have Jose Maria Rojas Garado, a Colombian senator, then the 2008 United States presidential election in Texas. And you can go through any of these if you want. You can save them. A guy named William Seaman, a photographer, the Battle of Bakenlage. I don't know. It gives me stumble upon vibes.
Yeah, that's what it
website that I
reminds me
truly
of.
miss. But there's so many interesting parts of Wikipedia, and sometimes I just feel the itch to get a new Wikipedia rabbit hole. And this is the website I will be going to, WikiTok.
Wow, I had Tumblr open in one tab and Stumble Upon clicks in another tab. That was
Those
back in the day.
Those were the days,
my
friend. We thought they'd
And now we just have to scroll in our feeds forever. Jeff, what do you got for us?
So we should mention, just for the record, because this was This Week in Google, that Google I/O will be May 20 and 21. AI. But the other thing I'm going to talk about is BuzzFeed. Poor BuzzFeed's having some rough days today, but BuzzFeed wants to start its own AI-driven social media platform.
Oh, no.
I know. Now,
BuzzFeed.
Jonas Peretti is a hell of an innovator. He's done a lot of amazing things, and I'm going to give him some slack here. And what he's arguing is that he says that the internet is broken. Addictive content has led to growing dissatisfaction, toxic masculine vibe, true that. Algorithms make it hard to express your identity authentically and just for fun. Yeah, okay. So then he argues that we are in the rise of snarf. Stakes, novelty, anger, retention, and fear.
Snarf.
This is the business model of mass media, right? You exaggerate the stakes, you manufacture novelty, you manipulate people to be angry, you retain, you have retention hacks, we're holding them on to people who don't want to be there, and you bring fear. All true. That's all mass media, too. And so he wants to start something that's going to be livelier and nicer than that. Okay, good. And I don't know how AI is involved. He wants to.
Jonah is obsessed with AI. I interviewed him last year for my yearly random foray into media feature.
Oh, that's right, you did.
With a colleague. And he uses AI all the time in his life, and also kind of just thinks it's the future.
My other concern about this is that we don't need another proprietary social network. Have we not learned that lesson, people?
Well, I mean, I think part of what his impetus for this is the rise of BuzzFeed was tied to that era where Facebook was king for social.
But I would hope he would learn the lesson to not.
But now he's like, well, I could hold the keys to the castle.
Exactly.
What I assume his.
That's my fear.
Is.
Now, if it's
and this
federated,
is coming at a time where BuzzFeed has. God knows how many few employees. They've had to sell off nearly every aspect of their business.
They just had to lay off at HuffPost.
Yeah.
So my hope is that it's federated with one of the protocols, with AT protocol at Blue Sky, or with ActivityPub.
The other one.
And if it is, then I'll think nicer about it. I hope AI is used to help people create what they want to create, what they want to say. Okay, then I'll be open about it. But we'll see. So that's the news of the week. Meanwhile, just to give you good news, back to our first topic of the day, sales of Teslas are down 60% in Germany.
Yeah, I saw that.
Canadian candidates have said they're for, I guess, Prime Minister, have said they're thinking of doing 100% tax tariff on Tesla.
I kind of love it.
I mean,
kind of love it.
All right. Thank you all for joining us. We do Intelligent Machines every Wednesday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. That's 2100 UTC. You can watch us stream on 7 platforms: YouTube, Twitch, X, 4 other platforms I will not name because I do not know them. Mikah, if folks want to keep up with you and what you're doing, where do they go to do that?
I'm I'm at Mikah Sargent on many a social media network, or you can head to chihuahua.coffee, CHIHUA.coffee, where I've got links to the places I'm most active online.
Beautiful. And Jeff,
Well delivered. Well, nicely delivered.
what about you?
You can
Where do
find
they
me
go to at you?
Jeff Jarvis. Hey. JeffJarvis.com, where I have the hardback here, but the paperback version of the Gutenberg Parenthesis is out. And yeah, that's it. JeffJarvis.com.
Great. And you can follow me at paris.nyc on Blue Sky, or send me story ideas at martineau.01 on Signal. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Bye-bye.